Chapter 96. You call this the spirit void. Finger. Seeking subscription 3/5. Translator. 549,690,339. Fortunately, the Great Hall of the Chintian Observatory was spacious enough for the Qi cultivation stage battle to be carried out with ample room. Everyone took their positions, with Luo Wuzhou going first. Before this, Luo Yunzhou had already informed Han Yi that he would not be the first to go on stage. Han Yi would only go on stage when all the late-stage Qi cultivation cultivators of the Luo family had fought and lost, as a form of respect. Han Yi naturally had no problem with this. He had used the Qi observation skill to examine all the cultivators in the hall, except the old Foundation Establishment cultivator. The strongest ones were only a few, including Lu Heng, the patriarch of the Lu family, and Tang Xiangyu, the patriarch of the Tang family. Both of them were senior cultivators at the 9th level of Qi cultivation stage. Although he didn't know how strong these two were in battle, they couldn't possibly be stronger than the muscular cultivator with the long spear he had encountered in the Evil Mountain range. Moreover, Han Yi's realm had improved greatly during his 6-month closed-door training, making his power stronger and therefore not afraid of the challenge. Besides, there was a young man who caught his attention. The young man's aura was elusive and hard to fathom, making it difficult to gauge his depth. He stood among the people of the Lu family, with a cold temperament, wearing a light blue robe, and his eyes were calm and extraordinary at first glance. Is this person from the Lu family, like me, invited from a different sect? Han Yi guessed. As Han Yi looked over, the young man glanced back at him. Both of their expressions were calm as their gazes crossed, but Han Yi paid more attention to him. On the stage, the first to act was the Tang family, with an 8th-level elder stepping forward. As soon as he entered the stage, Luo Wuzhou launched his offense. He used a medium-grade magic treasure in the form of a long banner. The banner was grayish-white, without the wickedness of the Blood Soul banner. When it was summoned, more than a dozen cloth strips extended from the banner floating in midair, rolling towards the Tang family elder. Han Yi suddenly realized that this banner was a trapping device, and the cloth strips were also part of the magic treasure, not ordinary cloth strips. As expected, the Tang family elder was completely immobilized after being wrapped by the cloth strips, and Luo Wuzhou defeated him with one strike, forcing him to retreat from the stage. The second one on stage was an 8th-level cultivator from the Lu family, and this time, Luo Wuzhou lost. Han Yi, who was watching from below, saw clearly that the Tang and Lu families were obviously joining forces to target the Luo family first, and then decide the winner afterwards. Han Yi shook his head. If he hadn't come this time, the Luo family would have undoubtedly lost. The battle continued vigorously. After Luo Wuzhou's defeat, Luo Anyang of the 9th level in the Luo family went on stage. He was defeated by a 9th-level elder of the Lu family. Then, Luo Zhiguang went on stage. Despite his injuries, he fought with all his strength and won the match. Tang Xiangyu laughed heartily. At this moment, Luo Zhiguang had no strength left to fight. Tang Xiangyu had already overpowered Lu Heng of the Lu family years ago. There was no doubt that he would easily defeat Luo Zhiguang and then defeat Lu Heng. The winner could only be him, and only the Tang family. Just then, he saw a young man walk out from the Luo family's group, speak a few words to Luo Zhiguang, and then Luo Zhiguang's face showed respect as he forced his body to bow. Before being helped off the stage by others from his family, the young man was naturally Han Yi. At this point, he could no longer ignore the situation, as it would be unjust. A mere 7th-level Qi cultivator, daring to stand before me, your courage is not small. Today, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your family, so that you understand that there are always people more powerful than you, and higher realms. If Tang Xiangyu hadn't said those words, Han Yi would have taken it easy on him and wouldn't have been too harsh. But with that said, his family was now involved. Even though they were separated by 2 worlds, it had touched his bottom line. Han Yi's face turned cold. Stop blabbering. Then, he pointed forward lightly, tapping in the void. Spirit energy faintly burst out from his fingers, as if a droplet of spirit liquid had fallen on the plane of the void in front of Han Yi. The spirit liquid rippled in layers, seemingly slow, but in a blink of an eye, it had spanned 7 or 8 meters and reached Tang Xiangyu. What is this? Tang Xiangyu was suddenly startled. Although the spirit light didn't seem to possess much power, it was incredibly fast. He took out a black shield from his storage bag. This was a medium-grade magic treasure. As soon as the shield was placed in front of him, the spirit light fell upon it. Bang! A loud explosion suddenly sounded, startling some nearby cultivators and causing their faces to pale. An elderly Foundation establishment cultivator, who was sitting nearby with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes and looked over, a hint of shock in his gaze. On the other side, the cold-hearted young man among the Liu family was also taken aback, staring at Han Yi, his face unchanged, but a wave of emotions rippled in his heart. In the arena, Tang Xiangyu's face changed drastically, and his mid-grade magical weapon emitted a crackling sound under the impact of the spirit light. The terrifying explosion also pushed his body backward involuntarily by 3 meters. As he raised his head, intending to say something, the second spirit light appeared before his eyes. No, not just one, 6 or 7 spirit lights followed the second one, forming a line of stars in an instant. Friends, show mercy. Before his words could finish, the spirit light had already struck his shield. The second spirit light shattered the shield on the spot, the third spirit light landed on his shoulder while he was sidestepping to avoid the attack, the fourth landed on his chest, and the fifth struck directly at his brow, embedding into his glabella. Boom, boom, boom. In a blink of an eye, the concentrated spirit light exploded, and the terrifying spirit energy was released in an instant. Everyone's faces were filled with horror and shock as they watched the scene unfold. Luo Yunzhou, who was beside Luo Zhiguang, was also dumbfounded, as this was the first time he saw Han Yi's terrifying power up close. During the battle at Tianqing City, it happened during the night and he couldn't see clearly. Moreover, he thought Han Yi's strongest skill was his sword control skill. But Han Yi was now using a magic skill that Luo Yunzhou was also familiar with. Spirit void finger. As the violent spirit energy dissipated, all that remained was a disfigured corpse. Han Yi's face was cold, and after over a decade, he was no longer the same person from a law-abiding society. Having experienced Mengshan City, Tianqing City, and the Evil Mountain Range, he had already become a qualified cultivator in the cultivation world. He made decisive kills with an unchanged expression. He slightly turned his body and looked at the rest of the Tang family members who had turned around angrily and looked towards Han Yi after witnessing the death of their family head. Their faces changed drastically as they made eye contact with Han Yi, and they retreated in fear. Leave. An elder from the Tang family, who had just entered the late stage of qi cultivation, clasped his hands toward the elderly Foundation establishment cultivator sitting above. He didn't dare to look directly at Han Yi, and after collecting the broken corpse from the ground, he turned to leave without raising his head. It was more like running away than walking. The other members of the Tang family followed him with fearful expressions. In an instant, they went from heaven to hell. Only the Luo family and the Liu family remained. Standing in the arena, Han Yi appeared to be at the qi cultivation stage from his aura, but apart from Luo Yunzhou, no one else saw him as just a 7th-level cultivator. They thought he had used a secret technique to hide his aura and lower his rank from the 9th to the 7th level of the qi cultivation stage. The Luo family members looked excited. On the other hand, Lu Heng, who originally wanted to take the stage, had a slightly changed expression. He had improved his strength significantly over the years, and he was confident that he could defeat Tang Xiangyu if he paid some price. However, just now, Han Yi easily killed Tang Xiangyu, which shocked him greatly. He was stronger than Tang Xiangyu, but only by a small margin. Under such circumstances, if he went up, he was sure to die. His face was ugly, but he hadn't given up. He had paid such a huge price, and he absolutely wouldn't let it end without a fight. Then, he turned to the cold-hearted cultivator among the Liu family members. I ask Brother Zhao to take action. Chapter 97. Heavenly Will Sect Seeking. Subscription 4/5. Translator. 549,690,339. Please, Master Zhao, make your move. Lu Heng respectfully requested, clasping his hands. The cold-hearted young man, standing out from the crowd, walked up to Han Yi and announced his name. Heavenly Will Sect, Zhao Li. The serious look in the eyes of the cold-hearted young man flashed. In his heart, Han Yi's fire magic skill, which had just easily destroyed a mid-grade magic weapon and directly killed the 9th-level qi cultivating cultivator, was so powerful that even he was internally shocked. Although his skills were stronger than Tang Xiangyu's, his cultivation realm was the same. Overall, he was only slightly stronger. When the 3 words, Heavenly Will Sect, came out, everyone was shocked. So was Han Yi. At the beginning of his transmigration, from his mind, he was only aware of the prominent name of one country, 2 saints, and 3 great sects in Dakion immortal country and thought there were only these 6 powerful entities with nascent soul stage cultivators. However, as he met more and more cultivators and got to know more about the cultivation world, he understood his previous limitations. In reality, his understanding of sects with nascent soul stage was biased. The 1 country, 2 saints, and 3 great sects in Dakion immortal country are indeed sects with nascent soul stages or above. However, these 3 sects represent the powerful entities that once had a spirit transformation expert. Even though there are no new spirit transformation experts currently, there are more than 1 nascent soul stage cultivators in the sect, and the sect possesses powerful resources capable of resisting a spirit transformation expert. This is the true meaning of the 6 great powers. In Dakion, besides these 6 powers, there are some other sects that have nascent soul stage cultivators. These sects usually have 1 or 2 nascent soul stage cultivators and are much weaker than the 6 powers but slightly stronger than normal golden core stage. Sects like Xuanden sect. There are 7 such sects in Dakion, 2 in Shu State and 5 in Chenzhou, and among them, the Heavenly Will sect is one. Han Yi clasped his hands. Xuanden sect, Han Yi. As soon as the voice fell, the opponent made his move. One could only see Zhao Li, touching his forehead, and an illusionary knife shadow appeared above his head. Although the knife shadow was not big, even smaller than Han Yi's wind demon dagger, the ferocity it emanated made Han Yi fully alert. This is the cultivation method of the Heavenly Will sect. The will of heaven is like a knife, which can behead immortals and gods. 2. Zhao Li uttered a light command. The knife shadow trembled slightly and seemed to instantaneously traverse a distance of more than 10 meters, rapidly approaching Han Yi. Han Yi only felt the oncoming knife shadow was not inferior to the spear attack he faced when he saved Chu Jinmo in the Evil Mountain range. This time, he did not adopt the fire shield skill for defense because there was no time. The Heavenly Will knife, driven by spiritual consciousness, surpassed many ordinary magic skills in speed. At the critical moment, his battle instinct had already reacted first. Draw the sword. The black long sword fought for the first time, its body trembled slightly as if excited. The shadow-bearing sword was a top-grade magic weapon among superior grade ones. Boom! The shadowy knife image was halted, hovering in place, but Han Yi retreated 3 steps. So strong. The illusionary knife shadow dimmed a bit, but its aura remained fierce. However, after this stroke, Han Yi had a rough understanding of the opponent's strength. The Heavenly Will sect cultivator named Zhao Li, when he used the Heavenly Will knife, his mysterious and unpredictable aura was finally captured by Han Yi. His cultivation realm was only at the early stage of the 9th level of Qi cultivation. However, the power of that knife belonged to the category of the power of senior Qi cultivation, even slightly stronger than Lu Heng and the slain Tang Xiangyu. Like him, the opponent could also fight against cultivators of higher realms. He was slightly weaker than the spear-wielding cultivator he had met in the Evil Mountain range. Of course, that spear-bearing cultivator was dual cultivating the body and spirit, while this Heavenly Will sect cultivator practiced a similarly unique technique, making it hard to compare them. Han Yi had a rough idea in his heart and was fully alert, knowing that he couldn't win this fight without giving it his all. The shadow-bearing sword in his hand was about to be thrown out, transforming into sword control mode. Just at this moment, the Heavenly Will sect cultivator named Zhao Li suddenly sighed. The illusionary knife shadow that was hovering between them trembled slightly and then vanished. My master told me that after I leave the mountain, I would meet a cultivator with a lower realm but stronger than me. I didn't believe it at the beginning, but now it seems that you are the cultivator my master mentioned. This is the will of heaven. Heaven's will is thus, Taoist Han, Zhao is willing to admit defeat. After saying that, Zhao Li bowed to Lu Heng, who was dumbfounded on the other side. Lord Lu, I apologize. Heaven ordered me to make a move, but heaven has predetermined my defeat. As the will of heaven is so, there is no need to fight. Zhao takes his leave. With that, the cold-hearted youth stopped speaking, turning and walking away. He crossed the threshold of the door and disappeared from everyone's sight. From the moment the shadow of the knife disappeared, to the disappearance of Zhao Li, everyone in the scene, including Han Yi and the elderly cultivator at the foundation establishment stage, who was sitting nearby, didn't react at all. A twitch appeared at the corner of Han Yi's mouth. It wasn't until Zhao Li left that he finally managed to react. The other party was a cultivator from the Heavenly Will sect, not an ordinary cultivator. This sect, in the remote ancient times when Dakion was still not established as a country, had another, more mysterious name, Fate Sect, suggesting it could transcend fate and capture the future. This was something that even real immortals couldn't accomplish. The Fate Sect drew too much attention and ended up in calamity. After it disintegrated, the surviving members no longer wished to pry into fate or defy it, but instead sought to comply with the will of heaven, thus changing the name to Heavenly Will Sect. The number of cultivators in the Heavenly Will Sect wasn't large. The entire sect only had around 100 cultivators. These cultivators also held a unique standing in the cultivation world. They held a profound belief in the will of heaven, their behavior mystical and unfathomable sometimes to the extent of seeming to be holy fools. Rather than calling them unique, it would be more apt to call them eccentric. And Zhao Li was the first Heavenly Will Sect cultivator that Han Yi had encountered. For a while, he didn't associate Zhao Li with the unique characteristics of Heavenly Will Sect cultivators. But at this moment, when Zhao Li uttered a theory on the Heavenly Will that seemed self-coherent, Han Yi finally understood the sect's evaluation of the Heavenly Will Sect. Whatever they do, they follow the will of heaven. It may be unexpected, yet it falls within the scope of the Heavenly Will. Crowd. With Zhao Li's departure, all eyes turned to Lu Heng. Lu Heng was almost biting his teeth off. Originally, he thought that inviting a strong sect cultivator to preside over would be absolutely foolproof, but he didn't expect that the other party would act so eccentrically, something he never could have imagined. Before this, all of the others' actions had been completely normal. But now there was no way to change the past. Even if he were to join the battle, he would only end up severely injured or even dead. Moreover, he still had other contingency plans and wasn't in a hurry. Let's go. Lu Heng gave a bow to the elderly cultivator from Dakion who was sitting nearby, then turned around and walked away without any hesitation. The other members of the Lu family followed him and left immediately. He still had other tricks up his sleeve. There was no urgency. The outcome has been determined. The elderly Foundation establishment cultivator from Dakion Sky Bureau finally rose slowly to his feet. The result of today's adjudication has been determined. The spirit field still belongs to the Luo family. After saying that, he slowly walked away. Before leaving, he merely gave Han Yi a deeper look without saying anything else. The curtain fell on this adjudication battle. The people of the Luo family were overjoyed. Han Yi didn't linger on. The second day, he took a step ahead of Luo Yunzhou and left the Daofu city, planning to go to the nearest big city, Tong City. He planned to take an immortal ship in Tong City to return to Nanyang County. This way he could get back to the sect at the fastest speed. Before leaving, Luo Yunzhou gave Han Yi a storage bag and said it was a token of thanks for him. In it, not only was there the Luo family's 10-year earnings from the spirit field, but also some unique spirit wine. Han Yi's divine consciousness scanned the contents of the storage bag. He was not interested in the 10-year earnings of the spirit field but was interested in the spirit wine. Thank you. Han Yi accepted. Luo Yunzhou apologized. Junior brother Han, I originally wanted to go back with you, but the Luo family has just stabilized and I need to stay in Daofu City for another 3 months. I regret that you want to go back, otherwise, I would definitely take you around Daofu City. Han Yi waved his hand, not minding, it doesn't matter. You take care of your family first. I'll get back to the sect faster on my own. The next day, Han Yi didn't wait for Luo Yunzhou to send him off and left quietly on his own. Walking on the streets of Daofu City, he couldn't help but recall the first assassination he had faced in Mengshan City when he first crossed over many years ago. It was that assassination that made him understand the brutality of the cultivation world. At the same time, it also laid the foundation for his cautious and low-profile attitude. It also gave him a set of daggers, which, after later cultivating the sword control skill, found a battle tactic that suited him. Such was life. Every encounter would influence the course of life that follows. A lot of thoughts went through his mind. When he walked a few miles out of Daofu City and past a forest, Han Yi suddenly had an intuition and stopped in his tracks. As he stopped, a flash of spirit light flickered within 100 meters radius with him at the center. The forest that used to be on his left and right disappeared, and the road behind him vanished as well. Han Yi suddenly tensed up. 2. I was caught unawares. This is a formation. Han Yi wasn't unfamiliar with formations. He had a soul-locking array in his backyard, and he had seen the concealment spirit array in the Evil Mountain Range. Moreover, during his fight with the giant tiger, he had experienced Li Yi's formidable sword formation. This made him extremely wary of formations. It was a skill among the myriad arts of cultivation that was not weaker than a spiritual talisman. As the formation revealed itself, 13 shadows also appeared. Han Yi's face calm, but at this moment, the magical energy in his body had already been stirred. All his means would be used. Seeing as how the enemy had laid out a formation and there were 13 of them ready to kill, they must have a powerful offensive. He wouldn't be foolish enough to think he could still negotiate. The shadow-bearing sword, wind demon dagger, yin thunder talisman, speed talisman, protecting body talisman, and even the top-grade magical tool golden light shuttle that was only initially refined, if he encountered a crisis, he would launch an attack. You've spoiled Lu family's plans, you deserve to die. A voice full of hatred rang out from among the 13 people. Chapter 98. Robbing Cultivator, Seeking. Subscription 5/5. Translator. 549,690,339. Han Yi glanced over with a raised eyebrow at the source of the voice, recognizing Lu Heng, the defeated head of the Lu family from the day before. It's you. Han Yi shifted his gaze away from the resentful face of Lu Heng, scanning the other 12 people with a faint golden gleam in his eyes. Under the Qi observation skill, the aura of these people was fully visible to him. Among the 12, 4 were at the 9th level of Qi cultivation, with one being slightly stronger than Lu Heng, not quite at the peak of this level but not far off. The other 3 at this level were average, and the remaining 8 had achieved the 8th level of Qi cultivation. It was a formidable lineup. Unlike Lu Heng, the other 12 had a special quality to them that Han Yi was familiar with from his encounter years ago in the Outer Peak Market. Considering the situation at hand, the answer was clear. Robbing cultivators. These 11 people were a group of professional robbing cultivators. Lu Heng, is this the guy who spoiled your plan? He looks like a Qi cultivation 7th level. Are you joking with me? Among the 12 was a man with a fierce face and a bear-like frame. He cast an unsatisfied glance at Lu Heng, causing the resentful man to feel a sudden shock inside. This man was the one among the 12 with an aura slightly stronger than Lu Heng's. Brother Zheng, I wouldn't dare deceive you. This guy must have a device to conceal his aura on him. He might seem like a Qi cultivation 7th level, but he is definitely at the 9th level of cultivation. Otherwise, he couldn't have killed Tang Xiangyu. Lu Heng's face turned fearful, knowing that collaborating with this group of robbing cultivators was akin to seeking skin from a tiger. Yet the spirit field of the Luo family was of great concern to him, and with the secret now revealed, he would rather die than remain indifferent to it. A device to conceal one's aura. That deep. That's rare. However, even with such a device, he couldn't possibly be a Foundation establishment cultivator. Lu Heng, didn't you say you had an expert with you? Why did you still lose? Are there any hidden circumstances? The fierce-looking cultivator's face contorted as he thoughtfully looked at Lu Heng, sending chills down his spine. This group of robbing cultivators was far from ordinary, with a strictly organized network behind them that even rumored to include Foundation establishment cultivators. To obtain the Luo family's spirit field, he risked it all and paid a heavy price to establish connections with this group, and now, even if he was regretful, it was too late. Brother Zheng, there's absolutely no hidden information. I swear to the heavens, I really invited an expert, but that Heavenly Will sect cultivator refused to make any effort. I was furious and wanted to kill him as well. Upon recalling that scene, Lu Heng gritted his teeth with anger still bubbling within him. Haha, Heavenly Will sect cultivator. How ridiculous. Lu Heng, you actually sought help from a Heavenly Will sect cultivator. During that time, didn't he keep chanting about everything being in accordance with the Heavenly Will? The fierce-looking man turned to laugh loudly, but there was not a hint of humor in his eyes. Instead, they gleamed dangerously, making Lu Heng's face change again. Just as he was about to explain, the man turned back to face him again. Anyway, I still believe you. It's not like you would dare deceive me. Let's kill this troublemaker first. Since Luo Zhiguang could escape from my grasp, I don't think this kid has that kind of skill. Meanwhile, as soon as the people appeared, Han Yi was on high alert, not taking any chances. However, the information revealed in the conversation between Lu Heng and the fierce-looking man was significant, causing Han Yi to be both vigilant and shaken. So, Lu Heng actually colluded with these robbing cultivators to ambush Luo Zhiguang, the head of the Luo family, in a plot to seize their spirit field. Then, the Lu family began pressuring the Luo family, and during this period, the Tang family, who had learned of the news, wanted to get a share of it as well. Subsequently, the Dakion Sky Bureau intervened and ruled that the three families would prepare for a competition. Luo Yunzhou invited me, while Lu Heng, just to be on the safe side, invited the Heavenly Will sect's Zhao Li, whom he had met by chance. The Tang family, on the other hand, believed they were strong enough and didn't invite anyone, especially since they were just a family established by Lu's cultivators with a shallow foundation. As a result, I killed Tang Shangyu, and Heavenly Will sect's Zhao Li, firmly believing in the Heavenly Will, only made a single move before departing unexpectedly. All of the above suppositions matched with Lu Heng's words and should be the truth. However, Han Yi was not interested in family feuds, like those between the Luo, Lu, and Tang families, or the spirit field. What he lacked most was time. He just wanted to return to Azure Dragon Peak as soon as possible to continue his training, improving his skills to the next level and cultivating his realm to the 8th level of Qi cultivation. Having assessed the situation, the fierce-looking man turned back around, his gaze settling on Han Yi. Han Yi no longer hesitated. He noticed that the formation covering 100 meters around them was a shielding array, similar to the concealment spirit array but with a larger range and higher grade. He guessed it to be a first-stage high-grade auxiliary spirit array. For robbing cultivators, Han Yi's attitude had always been very firm: kill them. So, he didn't waste any more time and launched the first attack. This time, there was no strategy, it was a pure battle of strength. Since the enemy didn't even have a peak 9th level cultivator, there was nothing to fear. Moreover, as he was now within the array, it was best to kill everyone quickly in case the formation changed. After facing the halberd-wielding cultivator in the Evil Mountain range, this was the first time Han Yi had gone all out, and this time, he had an additional top-grade magic weapon, the shadow-bearing sword. However, he didn't use the sword first. Instead, with a flick of his arm, 4 daggers rose into the air. A hazy circle of red flames flickered around them, tinting the daggers a faint shade of blood. As the daggers took flight, "How bold!" the fierce-looking man shouted, his eyes wide like lanterns and shimmering with a crimson hue. "Kill him!" But just as his words fell, he saw a dagger disappear 20 meters away and instantly reappear in front of him, seemingly teleporting. In his crimson eyes, the fierce air had not yet dissipated, but was suddenly replaced with horror. So fast. However, having been a robbing cultivator for so long, he excelled in fighting and self-preservation. The dagger was incredibly fast, but still slower than his thoughts. In an instant, a dark glow emerged from the black wristguard he wore, enveloping his entire body in the blink of an eye. Chapter 99, Destruction of Gods Additional Update. Translator, 549,690,339. Clang, a sound of metal clashing rang out, as if the dagger had struck a metal shield. The Wind Demon dagger, forged from a special material, ricocheted back. As the dagger was repelled, the dark, deep light that appeared from the wristband also disappeared on the spot. Crack, the wristband on his arm also shattered into 2 pieces at the same time. The most shocking thing was not that Han Yi's dagger had been blocked, but the ferocious man who had activated his body protection skill. It should be known that this wristband was a treasure he obtained unintentionally after performing his robbing cultivator deeds. He had tested that the protective spirit light it emitted could withstand his full-strength blow. In other words, the power generated by Han Yi's dagger attack just now was equivalent to his own full-strength blow. Since the wristband was a one-time treasure and the remaining spirit light storage could only be used once, Han Yi's blow shattered it, so he now had one less means of protection, leaving his face filled with shock. However, his shock did not end there. As the dagger was blocked and the protective spirit light dissipated, he looked around and his pupils contracted sharply. He had blocked a single dagger, but there were 3 others that hadn't aimed at him but went for the other 12 people instead. What enraged him was that the 3 rampaging rays of light were traveling within a radius of 100 meters, with screams erupting one after another, only to be abruptly silenced. "Damn it, is this what you said?" he started, turning to look at Lu Heng next to him, but stopped midway because Lu Heng, who had originally been standing beside him, had run away like a scared soul at the first opportunity. "Lu Heng, you're courting death." Although he longed to catch up and crush Lu Heng on the spot, the fierce man knew that the focus was on Han Yi at this time. When he quickly turned back, he saw that 7 of the 11 brothers who had followed him for many years had fallen. Only the 3 LCVEL9 Qi cultivators and a level 8 cultivator who happened to be standing behind the LCVEL9 ones, leaning on each other while resisting the 3 flickering red light daggers, seemed to be barely holding on, though just barely. These Qi cultivating cultivators, although fearless in battle, were in reality mediocrities that would not stand out among others. Otherwise, they wouldn't become outlaws. Their fighting techniques were not much different from that of loose cultivators. Facing apprentice family Luo Zhiguang, a level-9QJ cultivator who could form a siege, they couldn't withstand a single blow from Han Yi, who was incredibly decisive and attack-oriented. Seeing this tragic situation, the fierce man's eyes cracked. Without thinking, two black orbs instantly appeared in his hand. One orb was large, about the size of a fist, while the other was only half of its size. Die. The moment the black orbs appeared, Han Yi's hairs bristled on his back. However, when he was outnumbered against cultivators of a higher realm, it was impossible for him to deal with every situation perfectly. With a flash, the two orbs the size of fists collided, and the fierce man's fingers pulled. From the shattered orbs, a ray of black light shot out instantly. A one-time use special spiritual weapon, the Mother and Child Destruction Pearl. The weapon was his trump card. Even a peak chi cultivator would be killed by a direct hit if they had no defenses. The fighting happened too quickly, and Han Yi was too ferocious. In less than a breath, 7 of his 12 men were dead, leaving no room for him to hold back any longer. At the same time that Han Yi's hairs bristled, several reactions took place in his body. First, he rapidly retreated, and as he did so, he opened a shield of fire. With one hand, he pulled 3 spiritual talismans out of his storage bag. One top-grade protecting body talisman, one top-grade escaping talisman, and one superior yin thunder talisman. The first 2 talismans were slapped onto his body while the spirit energy flowed into the last one, with a flick of his hand. Boom, boom, 2 terrifying explosions occurred almost simultaneously. The first sound was from the black light emitted by the Mother and Child Destruction Pearl. After penetrating the flame shield, it shattered the high-grade protecting body talisman and brushed past Han Yi, who had been bolstered with an escaping talisman, and moved half a step away. His dark blue robe instantly turned to ashes, his left arm felt a severe pain, and blood spurted out. A blood-stained figure fled, leaving a trail of blood behind. The second explosion rang amongst 3 peak chi cultivators and 1 8th stage chi cultivating cultivator. These 4 people were relying on each other to fend off the dagger attack, and they were the closest to Han Yi when the Yin Thunder talisman fell. Their faces were gray with death. Spirit light flickered on some cultivators, who had clearly used spiritual talismans or other defensive measures. But the Yin Thunder talisman was too fast, and with just a flash, all the spirit light was shattered. The rampant power of thunder and lightning severely damaged even the spirit and chi duel. Cultivation cultivator of the Blood God sect, who was only a line away from the peak of chi cultivation, let alone these ordinary 9th and 8th stages chi cultivators. Under this one strike, even if someone survived, they would only have a breath left. On the other side, Han Yi, whose body moved inertia back under the escaping talisman, had a drastically changed face. He bore the pain in his left arm and held his right hand with 2 fingers, focusing all his divine thoughts on the shadow-bearing sword at his waist. The shadow-bearing sword at his waist flew out, and the black long sword seemed like a black dragon. It passed through the still exploding power of the Mother and Child Destruction Pearl, the shattered pieces of the flame shield that were gradually scattering, and fell into the eyes of the fierce man tens of meters away. Whoosh! 100 meters away, the shadow-bearing sword slanted into the ground, leaving only the hilt, staining the sandy soil with a faint trace of blood. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the fierce man still stood firmly in place, with no hint of death in his eyes. Because he never thought that even the Mother and Child Destruction Pearl couldn't kill Han Yi. Death came too quickly and unexpectedly, so his last thought failed to realize that he was dying, and his consciousness dissipated as he perished on the spot. Within the formation, apart from the continuous howling of spirit energy and the crackling of the Yin Thunder talisman, there was no more fighting for a moment. It took a full 11 breaths of time. Han Yi stumbled back from tens of meters away. He first controlled the closest dagger to strike down the Yin Thunder talisman, killing the 2 9th stage cultivators who had only a single breath left. Then, he slowly walked toward the fierce man who still stood in place. At this moment, a sword scar pierced through the fierce man's brow. At this time, Han Yi was not in good shape either. This was probably the most dangerous fight he had experienced since transmigration, almost capsizing near the end. His dark blue robe on the upper half of his body had completely turned to ashes, exposing the golden protective inner armor on his chest. His left arm, which was exposed outside, was bloody and extremely painful. Fortunately, he decisively used 3 talismans in the end, a protecting body talisman to block, buying time, and an escaping talisman to increase his retreating speed, allowing the mysterious black light to pass by his left arm. Even so, his left arm was instantly severely damaged. If the strike hit him directly, Han Yi believed he would have died on the spot. It was extremely dangerous, as risky as when he climbed onto the immortal ship at the last moment in the evil mountain range, avoiding Han Shuxiao's sword. Han Yi lowered his head, looked at the two black pearls on the ground shattered into several fragments, and couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. What exactly is this? A magical artifact with only one strike. It's no inferior to the golden light shuttle. Then, Han Yi looked forward in the direction where Lu Heng fled. Lu Heng's figure blurred as he stepped 100 meters away, which was consistent with Han Yi's speculation that the formation was just a concealment type, aimed at shielding the fluctuations of spirit energy within 100 meters radius to prevent detection. One shouldn't stay here long. Although there was a formation, Lu Heng had fled, and Han Yi's combat power had dropped significantly at this moment. His left arm was injured, and the spiritual power in his body was almost depleted. If Lu Heng returned with reinforcements, he could only fight again desperately. He first summoned the 4 daggers scattered around and the shadow-bearing sword sticking into the ground to ensure his safety. Then, he quickly cleaned up the battlefield, collecting storage bags, magical artifacts, inner armors, and other spoils of war. Then, he collected the black pearls shattered into several fragments and finally found the core of the formation and took it. After checking for any omissions, he threw out 2 explosion symbols and destroyed all the corpses before he turned to leave quickly. Chapter 100. Chapter 2. Robbed requesting full subscription 1/5. Translator. 549,690,339. Han Yi did not continue forward, choosing instead to retreat back to Daofu City. This place was just 5 or 6 kilometers out of Daofu City, and more than 100 li away from Tong City. With such a long distance and his injuries, the consequences would be hard to predict if he encountered robbing cultivators again. Especially if the 12 robbing cultivators he had just killed had accomplices, and if the accomplices found out that he had killed their comrades, they might chase after him, and by that time, it would be a desperate situation for his severely injured self. It would be better to return to Daofu City, wait for his injuries to heal, and then leave. There was no need to rush for the time being. Having learned a lesson, Han Yi became more cautious towards robbing cultivators because at any moment, they could suddenly give him a big surprise. On the way back, he simply bandaged his left arm, put on new ordinary clothes, and aside from his face still looking somewhat pale, there were no major problems. He quickly crossed the 5 to 6 li distance, neither slow nor fast, passing through the city gate and re-entering Daofu City. After entering Daofu City, he didn't go straight to the Luo family, but instead found an inn for cultivators to rest, renting a high-quality room. 3 days later, inside the room, Han Yi opened his eyes and moved his left arm, finding that it had fully recovered and had no internal injuries, so he completely let out a sigh of relief. The black light had barely grazed him, and the injury to his left arm was not serious, as he only used some healing spiritual medicine for 3 days, leaving only faint traces. These traces would gradually disappear in the next week, making them completely invisible. As for the scar on Luo Yunzhou's face, healing it would also be easy. Injuries like these were only superficial, and as cultivators, with some treatment, they could be fully restored. During these 3 days, Han Yi not only treated his injuries and recovered his strength, but also reflected on the gains and losses of the battle and sorted out things that he couldn't understand. These robbing cultivators, 4 at the 9th level and 8 at the 8th level, would have a chance to fight even at the peak of the Qi cultivation stage. Did Luo Zhiguang escape because he has a secret too? This was the main reason why Han Yi had returned to Daofu City but did not dare to go to the Luo family. He faintly felt that there was more to the matter of the Luo family's spirit field, but he didn't want to get involved. Besides that, the battle this time was extremely dangerous, and luckily, I decisively used the spiritual talismans. In the end, Han Yi wanted to use both Yin Thunder talismans, but the split-second timing was too short, and his strength and reaction speed could only activate 1 Yin Thunder talisman at most. He didn't choose the fierce man for the talisman, but instead chose the other 4 late-stage Qi cultivators who were gathered together, simply because they were the closest to him and could guarantee a one-hit kill with the Yin Thunder talisman. Then, the shadow-bearing sword pierced through the leader of the robbing cultivators, completing the killing. Once back at Xuanden Sect, I need to find someone to ask about that black sphere and what it is. Its power is too strong. The whole battle was very fast, From the moment Han Yi threw his 4 dagger-like weapons, to when the shadow-bearing sword pierced the ground diagonally, it took less than 10 breaths of time. It was certainly not an exaggeration to describe the situation as changing rapidly. Han Yi was very fortunate that his actions were fast enough. If he gave these robbing cultivators more time and encountered more weird treasures like the Black Sphere, he would be in danger. I will set off for Xuanden sect in 3 days. As for Lu Heng, forget it, it's not important, and doesn't matter. It wasn't that Han Yi was kind-hearted or cowardly, but after weighing the pros and cons, he found that killing Lu Heng, apart from venting his anger and keeping a secret, would not bring any other benefits to himself and might even cause more trouble. Han Yi just wanted to return to Xuanden sect safely and cultivate without any accidents. Moreover, Lu Heng would definitely be frightened by the robbing cultivators and might even suspect something was wrong afterwards, so he would go into hiding. He escaped during the battle with the formation, and thinking about it from another angle, no matter if it was those robbing cultivators surviving or himself surviving, Lu Heng would think that they wouldn't let him go, so it would make sense for him to flee this place. Finding him would be a waste of time. If he happened to encounter Lu Heng and the opportunity was right, Han Yi would definitely kill him, but he didn't think it was necessary to specifically set up an ambush to hunt Lu Heng down. In other words, Lu Heng's importance in his heart wasn't worth it. 3 days later, Han Yi tidied up and left the inn, heading towards the city gate of Daofu City. As he passed by the city gate, he saw a few cultivators gathered together, pointing and discussing something on the wall. Just as he was about to walk past them, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. This Lu Heng is quite overbearing, daring to commit a mass murder within the city. Isn't this a slap in the face of Dakion? Just for a spirit field, he chose mutual annihilation, an unwise decision. Exactly, if he doesn't have a spirit field, he can find another one. But now he's angered Dakion, and the Demon Extermination Guard, the Monster Slayer Army, the Heavenly Observatory, and the Bandit Catching Department will be after him. Does he really think he can get away just because he's killed someone? He's truly foolish. It's a pity that the Luo family also met with misfortune, encountering such a madman. Han Yi quickly turned around, walked towards them, but his gaze fell upon a wanted poster on the wall. The poster clearly displayed Lu Heng's face and name, with the reason for the warrant written as, assassinating the head of the Luo family, Luo Zhiguang, killing 18 members of the Luo family, and then fleeing. Han Yi's pupils contracted violently, his eyelids twitched, and then he quickly turned around, rushing towards the Luo family's estate. Senior brother Luo couldn't have been robbed, could he? With a deep frown, Han Yi thought about his friends. He didn't have many. If he had to say, many years ago, there were only Zhenghai and half of Guandi. Now, after the events in Tianqing City, Luo Yunzhou could be counted as one, along with Zhenghai, and Chu Jinmo, Yan Ru, and Guandi were all counted as half-friends each. A moment later, Han Yi stepped into the Luo mansion and came out half an hour later. He stood at the entrance of the Luo family, looking back at the white lantern hanging outside the door, his expression dazed, feeling suffocated. It was the first time this emotion had appeared since his transmigration. Luo Yunzhou was dead. This senior brother, whom he had met before he turned 30 years old, had once tearfully invited him to Ascending Immortal Pavilion to repay his life-saving favor. Later, Luo Yunzhou had often found him to have a drink and connect with him emotionally. But now, Luo Yunzhou had died on his home soil, Daofu City. The immortal path was suddenly cut off. He had seen the corpse with his own eyes. That was the reason for his trance and distraction. Just now, he had entered the Luo family and learned the cause of Luo Yunzhou's death. 3 days ago, Lu Heng had sneaked into the Luo family at night, assassinating Luo Zhiguang and then killing Luo Yunzhou, who had come to find Luo Zhiguang. After that, he killed other family members and left triumphantly. After coming out of his stupor, a terrifying murderous aura erupted from his whole body, even causing the surrounding spirit energy to vibrate slightly. If there were middle-stage or low-stage cultivators present, they might even lose their minds due to this murderous aura and faint on the spot. Lu Heng, you're courting death. Chapter 101. Strange requesting full subscription 2/5. Translator. 549,690,339. Han Yi never expected that the head of the Lu family could be so ruthless and resolute. But on second thought, when he re-examined Lu Hong, he felt that it was within expectations. Lu Heng could take great risks and secretly contact those 12 robbing cultivators, which showed that he was a bold person who dared to fight desperately. Only when he fled back to Daofu City after attempting to kill Han Yi had he suddenly realized that neither Han Yi nor the robbing cultivators would spare him. Staying in Daofu City meant a dead end. In that case, the only way was to flee Daofu City. So he simply abandoned the Lu family and sneaked into the Luo mansion alone, easily killing the seriously injured Luo Zhiguang. To vent his anger, he lulled other people who happened to arrive before escaping. This was Han Yi's re-inference about what had happened to Lu Heng. But now, Lu Heng was on the run and even made it onto Dakion's wanted list. With countless people out there, his whereabouts were unknown. Even if he wanted to avenge Luo Yunzhou, he didn't know where to start. No, not right. Han Yi suddenly withdrew his raised foot. No, did Lu Heng only kill Luo Zhiguang to vent his anger? But he must know that killing the Luo family's people would undoubtedly bring about Dakion's pursuit. No, it's not that. According to the Luo family, when Lu Heng assassinated Luo Zhiguang, senior brother Luo happened to step into Luo Zhiguang's room and stumbled upon Lu Heng killing people. In a cry of alarm, he attracted more people. Lu Heng wanted to escape, but senior brother Luo instinctively blocked him and was killed. This means that Lu Heng's killing might not have been purely to vent his anger, but targeted Luo Zhiguang specifically. After the assassination, he intended to leave but was discovered. In order not to attract Dakion's official forces, he had to quickly kill and escape. Moreover, with Dakion's profound strength, it's impossible for Lu Heng to escape easily. He has been missing for 6 days. Lu Heng is hiding, but where could he be hiding that even Dakion's people can't find him? Han Yi's eyes suddenly flashed a cold light. Spirit field. It all started because of the Luo family's spirit field. Lu Heng colluded with robbing cultivators and attacked Luo Zhiguang for the spirit field. The trial of the 3 families later was also for the sake of the spirit field. In that case, he sneaked into Luo mansion and killed Luo Zhiguang to get his hands on the spirit field. So, there must be a bigger secret in the spirit field that Lu Hong would risk his life to plan and finally sneak into the Luo mansion and kill Luo Zhiguang. Now, he's hiding. One of the most likely places is the spirit field. As Han Yi's thoughts turned, he instantly unraveled this hidden thread. Although it was conjecture, he was willing to explore to avenge Luo Yunzhou. His eyes filled with murderous intent, he left with a wave of his sleeve and headed straight for the Luo family's spirit field. If Lu Heng only killed Luo Zhiguang and didn't kill Luo Yunzhou, Han Yi wouldn't care since it was a matter of the Luo family. However, now that Luo Yunzhou had died in Daofu City at the hands of Lu Heng, this revenge was also Han Yi's responsibility. And he just happened to figure out Lu Heng's hiding place, so it was only natural for him to take action and avenge Luo Yunzhou. The Luo family's spirit field was not located outside the city but within Daofu City. Although Daofu City was not one of the major cities in Luofeng country, it still covered an area of more than 40 square kilometers. The Luo mansion was in the West City district, while the Luo family's spirit field was in a corner of the North City district, covered by a formation all year round. Han Yi didn't rush in but waited outside the spirit field, observing for 2 days before he finally figured out the key to opening the formation. On the 3rd day, he took advantage of the Luo family's people opening the formation and sneaked in. He could have gone directly to Luo Yunzhou's elder brother, Luo Wuzhou, the new head of the Luo family. However, doing so would alert the enemy and ruin the plan, so he chose not to. After sneaking into the formation covering the spirit field, Han Yi quietly inspected the area in detail, trying to find Lu Heng but found no trace of him. 2 days later, Han Yi hid in a corner of the spirit field, using the turtle breath skill to reduce his breath to the lowest level to avoid attention. Was my inference wrong? The spirit field is not the key, and there's another hidden story. 1 foot. Lu Heng did not sneak into the Luo family's spirit field, but actually fled the city and became a robbing cultivator. I'll watch for 2 more days. If there's still no trace, I'll leave. Han Yi sat cross-legged, his mind completely focused, and practiced the turtle breath skill. The moon was bright and pure, and the autumn clouds floated gracefully. The cool light scattered, and the spirit field swayed. Sitting in meditation, Han Yi suddenly opened his eyes and burst out with an astonishing coldness. Here he comes. He really is here. He didn't get up immediately but let his divine sense surge, hiding his murderous intent. 200 meters away from him, at the central location of the spirit field, a sudden light jumped out from the void and manifested into reality. Then, the spirit light expanded, turning into a fiery red light gate. A figure staggered out of the light gate, and the gate gathered into a single point behind him, disappearing in an instant as if the whole scene had been an illusion. Only the figure that emerged from the light gate was real. This man was none other than the head of the Lu family, Lu Heng. However, his current state was very strange, with his robe shattered, his hair disheveled, his eyes unfocused, and his face, which had looked to be in his 40s, now appeared extremely old and wrinkled, resembling a 90-year-old man. In his hand, he tightly gripped a piece of black iron. Because he gripped it so hard, even his fingers turned white. No, 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 how could this be? What about my immortal affinity, my foundation establishment immortal affinity? Give me another chance, just one more chance, I'm sure I can win this time, definitely win. The confusion in his eyes suddenly turned into madness. He crazily squeezed his thin magical power into the black token in his hand, but the token remained motionless, showing no change. Because of his crazy actions, he didn't notice a black long sword moving quickly under the cover of the spirit field, followed closely by a figure. Sword in front, person behind. The killing intent was close and suddenly erupted. Who? Lu Heng struggled to turn around, and what appeared in his pupils was a dark death light. The light flashed, leaving a straight black mark under the moonlight. With the slash of this black mark, a head soared into the sky. This time, Han Yi's killing intent was firm, beheading with the shadow-bearing sword. Shadow-bearing sword returned and tied to his waist. Han Yi walked forward, looking at the headless corpse in the field, his face no longer calm, his eyes inevitably filled with a touch of sorrow and a mix of emotions. Senior brother Luo, I have avenged you. Rest in peace, have a safe journey. Han Yi didn't stay long. This place was the Luo family's spirit field, and although he had acted quickly, it had still made some noise. It would be hard to explain if someone from the Luo family came. He walked forward, looking at Lu Heng's head with unblinking eyes, and felt a sudden chill on his back. He could recognize Lu Heng's face, which had indeed aged rapidly, as if it had experienced the power of years. Han Yi's heart suddenly felt a chill. Calming his mind, he walked forward, picked up Lu Heng's storage bag, and then saw the black iron piece that Lu Heng had clenched tightly in his hand. He couldn't help but be curious and picked up the black iron piece. Upon closer examination, he discovered that it was not a black iron piece but a palm-sized black iron token. The token looked ordinary, with a weight similar to that of a regular iron piece, and had a character on each side. 1 Sir, and 1 Zhu. Age candle, or candle age. For Lu Heng to clench it tightly, it must be extraordinary. Could this be the secret of the spirit field? Considering the situation with that light door earlier, is this token the key? Can it open a light door in this place? And the strange changes on Lu Heng's body must have been experienced when he was inside the light door. Han Yi cautiously treated the black token in his hand, not daring to put in a trace of magical power, for fear of causing some reaction. His plan was to wait until he returned to Xuantian sect to study it. However, when he tried to put the black token into his storage bag, he froze. This token, just like the Chenkin bag he had once owned, could not be put into the storage bag. Unable to go into the storage bag, which means this token is extraordinary, it must be a treasure. With this thought, Han Yi prepared to put the token away safely on his person. But the next moment, Han Yi's face changed dramatically. In his hand, the black token with the characters, Sui, and Zhu, suddenly flashed a mysterious reddish light. As the light flickered, Han Yi found that his body's magical power was being uncontrollably drawn into the token. In other words, this mysterious token was absorbing his magical power. This absorption was like a giant whale swallowing water, draining more than 80% of his magical power in just a moment, causing Han Yi to be horrified. But he was not the indecisive type. Upon realizing that the token was wildly absorbing his magical power and that he couldn't shake it off, he quickly drew his sword, intending to cut off his hand. He could live without his hand, but if he didn't cut it off, he would be drained dry. Whether it's being ruthless towards others or himself, Han Yi was decisive in this moment, quickly making a choice. However, just as his other hand was holding onto the shadow-bearing sword, the black token, which was madly absorbing his magical power, suddenly stopped. Han Yi instinctively threw the weird token away. The next moment, the throne token floated in midair, and the reddish light emerged again, drawing a red light door resembling a candle flame in an instant. An terrifyingly mysterious force acted on the highly alert Han Yi, pulling him involuntarily into the light door as he tried to retreat. The token followed behind him, entering the light door. The light door instantly converged towards the center, shrinking to a single point, and disappeared with a soft bounce, as if jumping into another space-time. Speaking of it, the time between the appearances of the two light doors was not long, less than a minute. When the cultivator guarding the Luo family's spirit field arrived, he saw a corpse on the field. After checking, he found that it was the dead Lu Heng, and Lu Heng's head was obviously strange. The cultivator was so scared that he exclaimed, quickly leaving the spirit field and reporting to the Luo family. Chapter 102. Yellow Turban Immortal requesting full subscription 3/5. Translator. 549,690,339. The surrounding space rapidly transformed, becoming brightly lit and stabilizing. When Han Yi steadied his tumbling figure, the shadow-bearing sword sprang up before him, with 4 wind demon daggers appearing above his head, pointing to the sides. However, the surroundings were silent and showed no abnormalities, but he didn't dare to let his guard down. Earlier, the black token had unexpectedly and voraciously absorbed his magical powers without warning, catching him off guard. After staying alert for 3 breaths and seeing no more danger, he finally put away the wind demon daggers, but still held the shadow-bearing sword in his hand. Once he gathered his senses, he realized that he was standing in front of a mansion. When he looked at both sides and behind him, he realized that he was standing on a small square in front of the mansion. After carefully investigating, Han Yi discovered that the square was about 400 to 500 square meters in size. On the inside of the square, the mansion wasn't too big, only about the same size as his courtyard. The square was built on the edge of a cliff. Beyond the square was a bottomless cliff, shrouded in fog. It looked even more treacherous compared to the Azure Dragon Cliff of Azure Dragon Peak. Han Yi looked up, and through the sea of clouds, he could see the silhouettes of other immortal mountains in the mist, each also having a similar mansion atop. What exactly is this black token? Why did it bring me here? Han Yi's face remained serious, but the black token had disappeared, making it impossible to investigate further. Since it brought me here, what does it want me to do next? Lu Heng was able to enter before and then leave, so I should also be able to. However, his brief stay here seemed to last for many years. I absolutely need to be extra cautious. Han Yi didn't lose hope. He quickly realized the key to this situation. His strength was even greater than Lu Heng's. As long as he satisfied a certain condition, he should be able to reactivate the Gate of Light and return to Daofu City. After scanning his surroundings again and discovering no exit, he had no choice but to approach the mansion. The mansion wasn't big, and its ancient bronze door was tightly closed. Han Yi didn't head for the door, but instead, he used the shadow-bearing sword to gently touch the walls on both sides of the mansion, sensing no abnormalities. Even when he increased the force, there was no change. Finally, he struck with all his might, but still, he wasn't able to leave a single mark. At the very least, the hardness of the mansion's walls was something that the shadow-bearing sword couldn't budge. Han Yi released a point of spirit light, and the spirit void finger hit the wall, making a loud sound, but still failed to leave a trace. There was no way to bypass the front door and break into the surroundings of the mansion. Han Yi went to the bronze door. Using the same method as before, he found no evidence of damage. After thinking for a moment, he stepped forward, placing his hand on the bronze door and pushing it inward, but it remained motionless. But the next moment, he was stunned. A powerful voice echoed in his mind. Outsider, please pass the Immortal Mansion assessment. The assessment is to defeat a yellow-turbaned cultivator. Assessment attempts, 10 times. If the assessment fails, lifespan -40. If the assessment is successful, inherit the 10,009th Immortal Mansion. Han Yi was startled and retreated tens of meters with caution. As he retreated, a hint of spirit light emerged on the bronze door. The light landed on the ground, turning into a burly cultivator clad in a yellow battle robe. Han Yi retreated to the edge of the square, his alertness reaching its peak, and a magic tool in his hand. He was prepared for battle. But to his surprise, the tall yellow-robed cultivator, who stood over 2 meters tall and was among the tallest cultivators Han Yi had ever seen, stood motionless like a puppet. Yellow-turbaned cultivator, is this a heavenly creation? Han Yi slowly approached, cautiously circling the motionless yellow turban immortal. As he closed within 10 meters, a glint of spirit light suddenly flashed across the vacant eyes of the turban immortal. In the next moment, a surge of flame burst out from its hand, unleashing a fire attribute magic similar to Spirit Void Finger but faster. In the blink of an eye, it was already in front of Han Yi. Fortunately, Han Yi was prepared, a fire shield skill was already in place. Bang! The flame dissipates the fire shield, but its speed reduced by half, not extinguished, and was already rushing towards Han Yi. With a swift motion, Han Yi brandished his shadow-bearing sword, extinguishing the flame instantly on the spot. Despite the dissipation of the fire, Han Yi's face remained serious. This strong, while maintaining his focus, he stepped back, more than 10 meters away. The yellow turban immortal who had instantly cast a fire attribute magic spell, returned to its immobile state. Indeed, this is undoubtedly a heavenly creation, Han Yi mused. A heavenly creation is a certain aspect of the art of cultivation, using the stolen power of the heavens to create things of the world. However, this skill is too difficult and risky, it goes against the natural order and could easily invite divine retribution. Consequently, few people practice it. In the current cultivation world, there is no sect dedicated to specializing this, only a few sporadic methods circulated. Han Yi was astounded to encounter such a heavenly creation. In the next moment, the commanding voice resonated inside his mind once more. First trial failed, 9 attempts remaining. Han Yi was startled. 1 of 10 opportunities wasted. This means, if I fight with this yellow turban immortal and don't defeat it, it is considered a failure and attempts will be deducted. Just now I stepped within approximately 10 meters. This suggests that once I cross this distance, I will enter the exam area, which automatically triggers the exam. No, there's more to it. If attacked from a distance, it should count as well. This loophole would not be overlooked by the exam designer. I can't risk wasting another attempt. And if I can't defeat the yellow turban immortal within 10 attempts, my exam is considered failed. The punishment for failure is a decrease of life years by 40, which means 4 decades of my life will be deducted. Realizing this, Han Yi was chilled. He suddenly recalled his fight with Lu Heng on the Luo family's spirit field. Lu Heng's face at that moment looked eerie, aged beyond human years, barely resembling the Lu Heng he had seen merely days before. As he recalled that moment, it appeared that Lu Heng must have undergone the same exam, except he failed, had exhausted all 10 attempts, and was consequently stripped of his life years. That was why, after leaving the exam, he seemed so deranged, and Han Yi easily killed him with a single stroke of his sword. Understanding this, Han Yi took a deep breath and retreated again and again till he reached the edge of the square close to the cliff. He decided not to challenge recklessly anymore. Every examination chance was extremely precious, and he could no longer afford to waste any. Han Yi sat cross-legged, his back towards the cliff, looking at the ancient copper gate and the unyielding turban immortal. He closed his eyes for a full 3 days before he finally stood up again. Feeling the abundant magic energy inside him, Han Yi's eyes flickered with intensity, while his heart was calculating. I must win, even if it seems as if I'm betting my life on it. If I lose 40 years of my life, my cultivation path will surely come to an end. The reduction of lifespan meant a lot more than just life. At present, Han Yi was 34 years old. If he were to fail, he would become 74. The vitality of a 74-year-old body is completely different from that of a 34-year-old. If a 34-year-old body requires 9 years to practice up to the 9th layer of Qi training, a 74-year-old body might need 29 years, 39 years, or even longer. On this point, he would not yield even an inch, even if it meant risking his life. I only have 9 chances left. Every opportunity is priceless. I must seize them all, giving my all in each. Only then will I reach my limit. Alright, this time, I'll go all out. Making up his mind, Han Yi took a deep breath and moved forward. Before he reached the deadly 10-meter limit, his fingers conjured the shadow-bearing sword. It shimmered with a soft red glow and dashed towards the yellow turban immortal. Chapter 103. All means exhausted, seeking full subscription 4/5. Translator. 549,690,339. Whoosh. The shadow-bearing sword transformed into a stream of light, trailing faint red flames as it stabbed towards the yellow-turbaned immortal. However, the yellow-turbaned immortal suddenly raised his head and threw a punch. The scorching fist force materialized, colliding with the shadow-bearing sword. Clang! The shadow-bearing sword retreated, and although it was undamaged, Han Yi's eyes widened, and a flash of horror crossed his heart. But he didn't stop his movements. Instead, after recalling the shadow-bearing sword, he once again controlled 4 daggers, crazily shuttling them around and turning the space surrounding the yellow-turbaned immortal into a killing array. Clang, clang, clang. However, despite appearing bulky and being a heavenly creation, the yellow-turbaned immortal was not clumsy at all. In fact, his reactions were more than twice as fast as Han Yi's. It was unknown what material this yellow-turbaned immortal was made of, but he did not fear the wind demon daggers and fought them with his fists without any disadvantage. Not far away, Han Yi suddenly activated his spirit void finger, using 20% of his magic power to control the wind demon daggers, trapping the yellow-turbaned immortal in place. He used the remaining 80% of his magic power to launch countless spirit void fingers. In a short moment, hundreds of spirit void fingers were fired, almost exhausting his magic power. Next, he abandoned the wind demon daggers, using the remaining magic power to control the shadow-bearing sword and cast the departing fire sword formula. The sword broke through the air at such a fast speed that only when it approached the yellow-turbaned immortal did it produce a delayed sonic boom. Whoosh! A terrifying spiritual storm erupted around the yellow-turbaned immortal. Boom! A bronze-colored fist pierced through the spiritual storm, landing a punch on the shadow-bearing sword, which had been launched with full force. The owner of this fist retreated 7 or 8 meters. Meanwhile, the shadow-bearing sword flew back. Han Yi, who had his spiritual sense tied to it, felt the backlash and spat out a mouthful of blood. Han Yi retreated, only stopping at the edge of the square, his body falling down and sitting. Second examination failed. Remaining attempts, 8. As the windstorm dissipated, Han Yi looked at the yellow-turbaned immortal, who had retreated 7 or 8 meters away, with a shocked expression on his face. At this moment, the yellow robe of the immortal had been destroyed, exposing a completely black, fleshless body made from an unknown material. It was indeed a heavenly creation. On its black exterior, there were marks left by the wind demon daggers and burnt traces from the spirit void finger. One of its arms was the same black as its body, while the other had turned bronze. The bronze arm was the one that had clashed with the shadow-bearing sword just now. It's too strong. This body can withstand the shadow-bearing sword, wind demon daggers, and the spirit void finger. It's truly an unparalleled existence in the Foundation establishment stage. Furthermore, the yellow-turbaned immortal just displayed a fire element magic skill instantaneously. This didn't appear in the second exam, proving that he still has reserve strength. Is this exam too challenging? Am I supposed to reach the Foundation establishment stage before fighting him? Han Yi's expression was extremely ugly. After slightly recovering his magic power, he gently waved his hand to collect the scattered daggers and the repelled shadow-bearing sword. After checking that the shadow-bearing sword and the wind demon daggers were undamaged, he let out a sigh of relief. My skills are too weak, and my methods are too limited. Once I get out of here, I must make up for this. Han Yi made up his mind and began cultivating. 7 days later, his magic power was fully restored. Let's do it again. This time, Han Yi charged forward again. The wind demon daggers formed a killing array, entangling the yellow-turbaned immortal. Next, this time, he didn't use his spirit void finger. Instead, a fierce glint flashed in his eyes, and a spiritual talisman appeared in his hand. It was the Yin Thunder Talisman. This was his last Yin Thunder Talisman. He had purchased 2 before, using one on a robbing cultivator outside Daofu City. The first full-strength attack didn't work. This second attempt, Han Yi's trump card, was this spiritual talisman. With his magical power infused, a black light flashed, and the Yin Thunder Talisman burned without fire, instantly turning into ashes. Han Yi waved his arm that held the talisman forward, pointing at the yellow turban cultivator. In the originally calm and expressionless eyes of the yellow turban cultivator, a sudden flash of red light flickered. Han Yi's heart jumped again. The next moment, the yellow turban cultivator whose eyes flickered with red light abruptly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of red breath. This mouthful of breath instantly transformed, outlining an illusory immortal mountain more than a person's height. The illusion, like a painting, unfolded in an instant. Almost at the moment Han Yi activated the Yin Thunder Talisman and pointed it at him, the immortal mountain illusory painting was blocking in front of him. Boom! A thunderous explosion resounded in the void, and the illusory painting of the immortal mountain transformed from the breath also turned into flying ashes. Han Yi never expected that the Yin Thunder Talisman would be blocked in a way he had never seen before. But a stern look flashed in his eyes. Since he had already made a move, he would not waste this opportunity. The shadow-bearing sword came out again. Bang! 10 breaths later. Third test failed, remaining attempts, 7 times. Han Yi retreated to the edge of the square, gasping for breath. At the ancient bronze gate, the yellow turban cultivator still stood, with more scratches on his body, but Han Yi did not see any way to break through his defense. Perhaps with this tactic, Han Yi might not be able to break through the defense of the yellow turban cultivator even if he attacked 10 times in a row. Han Yi didn't dare to take that gamble. 9 days later, Han Yi recovered and adjusted his state. Then he took out a magical artifact from his storage bag. It was a golden shuttle-shaped artifact that could be held in the hand when not activated. Top-grade artifact, Golden Light Shuttle. This time, Han Yi was determined to use this artifact he had never used before. The refinement of a top-grade artifact was not easy, but Han Yi only needed to use it once and did not need to fully refine it. With just half a month's time, he completed the most basic refinement, enough to control the artifact. Han Yi's eyes were full of solemnity, holding the Golden Light Shuttle. He performed the light body technique and approached at high speed, closing the distance to 10 meters. Then, without hesitation, he directly launched the Golden Light Shuttle in his hand. The light flashed, the Golden Light Shuttle leapt up, changed its shape, moving from still to dynamic, leaving a golden streak, a sonic boom, exploding through the air. Swipe. The yellow turban cultivator at a distance of 10 meters raised his eyes, the red light in his eyes emerging again. He opened his mouth and roared furiously, his body suddenly leaping up. This was the first time Han Yi had seen the yellow turban cultivator roar and the first time he saw him take the initiative to attack, making his inner heart awe-stricken. The next moment, the leaping yellow turban cultivator, blocking with both hands, managed to stop the transformed Golden Light Shuttle. Then, a deafening explosion erupted. The yellow turban cultivator was directly knocked down by the Golden Light Shuttle, slamming heavily into the square. But after the yellow turban cultivator's crazy block, the speed of the Golden Light Shuttle had been reduced by half. For the Golden Light Shuttle, speed meant power. And the yellow turban cultivator who had fallen to the ground in the square quickly stood up the very next moment, his fists bombarding wildly in succession. One punch faster than the other, they formed a sky full of fist shadows in an instant. Bang, bang, bang. The Golden Light Shuttle that continued to bombard downward collided with the fist shadows, splashing out golden flames like spiritual power. Chapter 104. 8 Levels of Chi Training. Requesting full subscription 5/5. Translator. 549,690,339. Boom. With the final strike from the Golden Light Shuttle, it flew backwards, falling onto the square and sliding a short distance, nearly falling off the cliff. At the same time, the flurry of fist shadows dissipated abruptly. The yellow-robed immortal soldier's body was violently blasted back more than 10 meters before coming to a complete stop. Thick, hot air rose from his body, as if a machine had been overloaded. Fourth attempt failed, remaining attempts, 6. Han Yi recalled the Golden Light Shuttle with a rare sense of dejection in his heart. This yellow-robed immortal soldier was like an all-powerful machine. That's right, this yellow-robed immortal soldier appeared to be a cultivator, but in fact, he was a creation of heavenly creation. Calling him a machine wasn't wrong. His body is made from an unknown material, comparable to the materials used for top-grade magical instruments. He can expel breath from his mouth, transforming it into a phantom image of the immortal mountain, capable of blocking the Yin Thunder Talisman. He can withstand the Golden Light Shuttle, even launching counterattacks. Only a Foundation Establishment stage cultivator might be able to defeat him. Han Yi sighed, recalling all his magical tools, and looked at the motionless yellow-robed immortal soldier on the distant square. Now, I have tried everything and still can't defeat the yellow-robed immortal soldier. There are 6 opportunities left. Without confidence, I absolutely cannot try again. It seems that I have to endure. Han Yi turned his gaze to the cloud sea outside the square. From here, the closest immortal mountain was at least 3 miles away. On that mountain, there was a similar mansion. The voice said that after passing the examination, I would inherit the 10,009th immortal mansion. If my guess is correct, there are at least 10,009 immortal mountain mansions here. What is this place? Putting aside these doubts, Han Yi began to consider his next plan. Of course, he would not give up, he just had to persevere. Advance my realm to the 8th level of Chi cultivation, or level up my sword control skill, or even improve both my skills and realm before I can win. No, that's not right. I shouldn't think about it too carefully. My strongest means now is not the shadow-bearing sword, the wind demon dagger, or the sword control skill, but the top-grade magical instrument, the Golden Light Shuttle. From the 3 tests just now, only using the Golden Light Shuttle made the yellow-robed immortal soldier take it seriously. In that case, I should refine the Golden Light Shuttle to the extreme, then break through to the 8th level of Chi cultivation, raise my realm another step, and try to break through his defenses. This is the fastest and most reliable way to win. With the strategy set, Han Yi no longer hesitated, took out a spirit stone and began to cultivate. Thankfully, before this, he had consumed the blood-bone spirit flower to improve his spiritual roots. His spiritual root aptitude had been increased by about 3 times. With the improvement of his spiritual roots, his cultivation speed is now on par with Luo Yunzhou, a fellow cultivator with 3 spiritual roots. Being trapped here was not what he wanted. However, after attempting a few times and exhausting all means, he still couldn't defeat the yellow-robed immortal soldier. So, he could only find a way to break through another level. Luckily, this examination does not stipulate a time frame. I wonder what the sect is like now. Han Yi put aside the many thoughts in his mind, took a deep breath, and focused on cultivating. Amidst the cloud sea, an immortal mountain appeared. By the cliff in front of the mansion, a cultivator dressed in an ordinary robe was meditating. Eternal days and endless nights. Time flies, leaving its trace. Han Yi opened his eyes. In front of him, the faint red virtual panel had been unconsciously transformed. Name: Han Yi. Lifespan: 37 135ths. Realm: Qi Cultivation 8th Level LIOO. Cultivation Method: Fire Gang Mysterious Art Entering Depth 11 100ths. Skills: Alchemy Skill Fire is purely green 49 100ths. Spirit Void Finger Fire is purely green 74 100ths. Sword Control Skill Fire is purely green 71 100ths. Light Body Technique Fire is purely green 99 100ths. Fire Shield Skill Fire is purely green 24 100ths. Turtle Breath Skill Fire is purely green 28 100ths. Departing Fire Sword Formula Mastering 9 100ths. Qi Observation Skill Enter the Hall 29 100ths. Talisman Making Skill First Glimpse of the Path 29 100ths. Closing square bracket. 2.5 years, almost 3 years, I've finally reached the 8th level of the Qi refining stage. Han Yi stood up, and the ash of the spirit stone scattered with the wind. A powerful Qi belonging to the 8th level of Qi refining surged, stirring the cloud sea, but it was quickly withdrawn. I can't be impatient at critical moments. I just advanced to the 8th level of Qi refining, I still need to consolidate my realm. However, this promotion came about a year earlier than I expected. Han Yi looked at the proficiency panel's column of techniques. He had always thought that the proficiency of techniques had little effect on one's realm. This was the case from the 2nd to the 6th levels of Qi refining, and even when he changed to the Fire Gang Profound Art in the 7th level, he didn't notice any significant improvements. However, 1 year ago, he discovered a surprising improvement in his cultivation speed when the Fire Gang Profound Art advanced from proficient to minute detail. This was the first time he had clearly perceived the promotion effect of techniques on his realm. Originally, he estimated that it would take about 3 years for him to advance from 29 100ths to 100 100ths in proficiency with the Fire Gang Profound Art after consuming the Blood Bone Spirit Flower. However, when the Fire Gang Profound Art progressed to minute detail, his cultivation speed improved significantly, allowing him to advance within less than 3 years. But this breakthrough didn't attract any heavenly demons. Where is this place, a place where even heavenly demons can't enter? Han Yi's inner heart floated with doubts. In his previous breakthrough to the 8th level of Qi refining, he had taken the standard quality exorcise evil spirits pill, but this time, he didn't hear the whispers of heavenly demons that he usually did during breakthroughs. He quickly dismissed these doubts from his mind. It didn't matter, as long as he had successfully broken through. It was better if no heavenly demons appeared, to avoid any accidents. Afterward, it took Han Yi 3 months to consolidate his realm at the 8th level of Qi refining. Then he started refining the Golden Light Shuttle. This time, his refinement was not just the most basic and superficial one, but instead, he treated the Golden Light Shuttle as his core magical tool for refinement. His spiritual consciousness enveloped the tool and transferred his mana into it. It took him half a year to refine the top-quality magical weapon to the limit of his current abilities. At this time, the proficiency panel showed that he was already 38 years old and had been in this mysterious place for over 3 years. More than 3 years had passed since Han Yi last walked outside the large bronze door, facing the motionless yellow scarf immortal soldier. For over 3 years, this heavenly creation had been standing still like a puppet, seemingly lifeless. Only Han Yi knew of its earth-shattering power once it started to move. Han Yi walked faster and faster, leaping into the air halfway towards the door and lightly tossing the Golden Light Shuttle. It took off into the sky, turning into a golden streak that shot upward before diving down again. Behind the golden light shuttle, a circle of golden radiance flickered, causing even the spatial vibrations. However, because the golden light shuttle's speed was too fast, its roaring sound didn't spread far. The yellow scarf immortal soldier, which had been silent for 3 years, suddenly looked up. Its aura surged as it leapt upward, its arms shining with a bronze glow as it prepared to block the golden light shuttle. This scene was almost identical to the one 3 years ago. However, in the next instant, Han Yi's eyes flashed with a fierce light in the air, as his spiritual consciousness burst out, and a trace of blood even spilled from the corner of his mouth unconsciously. At the same time, the golden light shuttle's speed increased by another level just before colliding with the yellow scarf immortal soldier. Boom! Creak! The sound of metal breaking suddenly rang out. The terrifying golden light did not slow down, and it continued to descend from the heavens. Chapter 105. Incompatible 8 characters seeking subscription 1/5. Translator. 549,690,339. If time were slowed down by 1,000 times, one could see that the bronze-colored arms of the yellow-turbaned immortal standing in front of the golden light had numerous cracks appearing on them the instant they touched it. Then, they collapsed further under the full force of the golden light shuttle, shattering into bronze fragments in a split second. Among the fragments were some semi-solid mysterious substances mixed in. Boom! The light flashed. The golden light shuttle hit the square, unleashing its power and a bright golden light. Han Yi, who was in midair, having exhausted all his energy, his body's mana depleted, and his sea of consciousness almost empty, was blown away. When he managed to stand up with difficulty dozens of meters away, he narrowed his eyes and his face looked horrified. He saw that the yellow-turbaned immortal with a hole pierced through his chest was standing upright on the square. The broken part of his chest was slightly writhing. Some semi-solid substances in the scattered fragments attracted all the pieces, suspended in air and gathering toward the gaping hole in his chest. Both of the arms that were shattered by the golden light shuttle were also doing the same. In less than 10 breaths of time, the yellow-turbaned immortal was restored to a complete form. "This is impossible," Han Yi exclaimed, his face dramatically changed, and even his voice was somewhat distorted from shock. The scene before him turned all his efforts to ashes. This yellow-turbaned immortal seemed to possess an undying body. How the hell was he supposed to deal with that? A sense of despair, unprecedented in Han Yi's heart, emerged. Wait, no, something is off. There was no notification of a failed assessment. At this moment, the now repaired yellow-turbaned guard headed straight towards the bronze-colored door of the mansion. Then, he turned into a light and disappeared into the door. Following this, the majestic voice appeared again. "Congratulations on passing the assessment. You are now the owner of the 10,009th Immortal Mansion. Next, you can choose to leave the Immortal Court or set foot on the Immortal Road. Warning, the realm of the owner of the Immortal Mansion is low, and the survival rate of stepping onto the Immortal Road is only 1 in a trillion. The voice in his head made Han Yi's face even more unsightly. 1 in a trillion, that was essentially a dead end. Was there really a choice? Only someone seeking death would choose to step on that dangerous-sounding Immortal Road. Han Yi couldn't wait to leave this place immediately. So he did not hesitate to chant in his heart, "I choose to leave the Immortal Court." Although he didn't know what the Immortal Court was, he just followed the voice. Once he got out of this damned place, all these things would have nothing to do with him. As soon as the words were spoken, a black token popped out of nowhere, instantly creating a red light door. Han Yi thought for a moment and decided to trust it, preparing to step in. But he felt resistance. He instantly understood that he needed proof of communication, which was the black token in front of him. Without any hesitation, he grabbed the black token and stepped in again. This time, there was no obstacle. The familiar feeling of spatial change appeared once more, but in the blink of an eye, the scenery brightened. Looking around, he saw the bright moonlight and the lush green spirit field. With a flicker of thought, Han Yi already knew where he was. It was still the same place from 3 years ago, the Luo family's spirit field. He turned around and saw the pale red light behind him vanishing rapidly. Opening his hand, the black token lay quietly, without any hint of extraordinariness, as if these 3 years had been nothing more than a dangerous yet illusory dream. Yet, Han Yi knew that everything that had happened in that mysterious place was real. Because the proficiency panel would never deceive him. Lifespan, 38 135ths. Realm, Qi Cultivation Stage 8 100ths. After trying for almost half a month, cultivating for 2.5 years, consolidating his cultivation base for 3 months, and refining the Golden Light Shuttle for half a year. More than 3 years had passed in total. In these 3 years, Han Yi had not only gained the mastery of a mysterious immortal mansion, but his realm had also improved. Essentially, he had gained much more than what he had lost. However, he didn't want to experience such a dangerous tightrope walk again. He could still break through his realm in the outside world, and at present, he couldn't seek any use for the mysterious immortal mansion. Mystery and the unknown often meant trouble. What Han Yi feared most was trouble. Han Yi originally wanted to discard the black token, but his hand hesitated just as he was about to throw it away, and he thought about it before putting it away. Then, he quickly moved and disappeared, finding a place to sit down and meditate. The night passed, and during the day, Han Yi left the spirit field and did not linger in the city. He directly left Daofu City and headed to Tong City. Unexpectedly, halfway through the journey, Han Yi encountered the cultivator from the Heavenly Will sect, the cold youth Zhao Li. However, at this moment, Zhao Li seemed extremely disheveled, and he could no longer maintain the cold expression on his face. He was fleeing. Han Yi turned around to leave, not wanting to get involved with Zhao Li's affairs for even a second. "Taoist Han, please wait. I have a robbing cultivator following me. Please help me kill them quickly. My master told me before he went down the mountain that I would encounter a disaster, but in the end, it could turn into a blessing. The reason is that I would meet a cultivator with a lower realm than me, but stronger power." This word should be fulfilled on Taoist Han. Hearing these words, Han Yi ran even faster. If he believed him, he would change his surname from Han today. However, other robbing cultivators were coming from the opposite direction, regarding Han Yi as Zhao Li's accomplice. They activated their magical instruments, transforming huge, sharp wind blades that cut through space and attacked Han Yi. Without thinking, Han Yi raised his hand and unleashed a sword strike. As soon as the sonic boom started, the shadow-bearing sword broke through the wind blade, cutting through the space and having both the magical ding-shaped furnace and the cultivator who activated it. The shadow-bearing sword returned to its sheath, and Han Yi moved quickly like the wind. The light body technique, at this moment, had officially broken through from fire is purely green 99/100ths to the next level. Light body technique peak mastery 1/100th. The peak mastery light body technique allowed Han Yi to cover a distance of 200 meters with one step. In just a blink of an eye, he took a dozen steps, seemingly slow but actually fast, and left behind both Zhao Li from the Heavenly Will sect and the robbing cultivators attacking him. This time, Han Yi really felt that the direct route from Daofu City to Tong City was clashing with his luck. He had to change to a slightly longer route, and after switching, he encountered no more twists and turns, and smoothly arrived at Tong City. Upon arriving at Tong City, he found the Xuanden sect's pill shop and showed his inner sect identity to inquire about the immortal ship's schedule, paid for the trip, boarded the ship, and set off without any obstacles. 10 days later, Han Yi looked at the Xuanden mountain range, which was close at hand, and his inner heart was filled with mixed emotions. This was the longest time he had been away from the Xuanden sect. He had originally thought that the trip down the mountain would take about 2 months, but it had unexpectedly dragged on for more than 3 years. Moreover, many things happened. The Luo family's spirit field, Luo Yunzhou's death, the robbing cultivator's interception, the mysterious place, the yellow turban immortal warrior, and the immortal mansion master. Han Yi gathered his thoughts and focused on the upcoming matters. According to the Xuanden sect's newly enacted policy, he had not yet completed the 3 annual Earth ranking challenges on the combat platform. In addition, the battle points were settled every 3 years, and inner sect disciples who scored less than 10 points would be demoted to the outer sect. Han Yi hadn't completed this either. Han Yi guessed that he might lose his courtyard due to his absence from the sect for more than 3 years. But it didn't matter, as he had already advanced to the Qi cultivation 8th layer, and based on his estimation of his own strength, defeating opponents at the same layer was as easy as slaughtering dogs and chickens. As for facing a Qi cultivation 9th layer, as long as they weren't at the peak state, he could kill them without much difficulty. Even when facing the Qi cultivation peak, he had a chance of winning, and it was uncertain who would win or lose. However, when facing a legendary Qi cultivator like Han Shushao, who could fight a foundation establishment cultivator, he was slightly inferior, but even if defeated, he could still retreat calmly. In short, within the Qi cultivation stage, Han Yi was no longer afraid of anyone. He could fully exert his strength, and it shouldn't be a problem to contend for the top 30 in the Earth ranking. The top 30 opposition wouldn't just be the disciples of the Xuanden sect from 10 years ago, but the formidable Qi cultivation peak who had experienced various trials, such as the Demon Cave, the Blood God sect battles, and the Cave Heaven trials, and had significantly improved their combat strength. Chapter 106. 3 Years of Change Request for Subscription 2/5. Translator. 549,690,339. A moment later, Han Yi climbed up Azure Dragon Peak and headed towards his own courtyard. To his surprise, his courtyard had not changed ownership and still belonged to him. He triggered the restriction with his divine sense, and the courtyard door opened as Han Yi stepped in. There was no change in the courtyard. From more than 3 years ago. Who had preserved his courtyard? Han Yi's first thought was of Xuanden sect's master Yuan Shun, who had found him several times before and might have guessed his true strength. He knew that Han Yi was hiding his strength, but did not expose him. His second thought was of Bai Wanqing. Bai Wanqing was Luo Yunzhou's master, and Luo Yunzhou had died in Daofu City. She should have known of his death by now. Luo Yunzhou had gone down the mountain with him, and after Bai Wanqing's investigation, she found that Han Yi was missing. She preserved his courtyard, and although it was a small possibility, it could not be ruled out. As the third possibility, there might have been new changes in the Earth ranking that he didn't know about, such as policy changes. However, no matter what, his courtyard had not been taken back, which was what Han Yi was happy to see. After making some minor adjustments, he put the Black Immortal Mansion token in a jade box and hid it in a secluded spot inside the courtyard. Then Han Yi went out and hurried to Azure Dragon Palace. According to both sentiment and reason, he needed to see Bai Wanqing as soon as possible. The second time he met Bai Wanqing, she still looked stunning. Her eyes were bright, her hair was coiled up in a silver bun, and her facial features were incomparably astonishing. However, unlike the first time they met when Bai Wanqing didn't get up, this time she was standing at the railing of the Azure Dragon Palace, looking out over the cloud sea. Han Yi glanced at her and found that Bai Wanqing was shorter than Chu Jinmo, probably about 1.68 meters tall. She wore a tight-fitting robe, and both her figure and appearance were stunning. In terms of figure alone, she was even better than Yan Ru by a fraction. I knew about Yunzhou's death 3 years ago. Bai Wanqing's tone sounded somewhat sad. She had nearly 10 disciples under her name, and every one of them had a genuine master-disciple relationship with her. According to the broad definition of Dao partners, masters and disciples included, Luo Yunzhou's death naturally saddened her. But where have you been for these 3 years? Bai Wanqing didn't turn her head and casually asked. Han Yi bowed. Your disciple was trapped in a formation and spent more than 3 years breaking through to the 8th level of Qi cultivation before finally escaping. Han Yi didn't reveal everything about the mysterious place, but merely said he was trapped in a formation. Bai Wanqing nodded. When Luo Yunzhou's soul lamp went out, she had gone to Daofu City and tried to find Han Yi but found that he had disappeared. Unable to trace him with her foundation establishment abilities, she returned to the sect and asked the location of the inner disciples' soul lamps. When she learned that Han Yi's soul lamp had not gone out, she guessed that he might have found an immortal affinity or been trapped somewhere. In any case, Han Yi was still alive. Elder Bai, did you keep my courtyard? Han Yi asked. Bai Wanqing nodded. Although there is a new policy in the sect, those who go out and may be trapped or encounter danger but whose soul lamps have not gone out, their courtyards will still be protected. As expected, Han Yi had guessed correctly. Han Yi cupped his hands in thanks. Thank you, Elder Bai. Bai Wanqing waved her hand. I merely reported your information and did not do anything myself, so there's no need to thank me. By the way, your cultivation progress is not slow, and there have been many interesting changes in the heaven, earth, and human rankings in recent years. When you have time, pay more attention. Cultivating in seclusion all the time is not advisable. You may leave. With thanks, Han Yi left the Azure Dragon Palace. With a thoughtful expression on his face. The changes in the heaven, earth, and human rankings had even caught Bai Wanqing's attention. It seemed that he had indeed missed out on a lot during these 3 years. His interest piqued, Han Yi headed towards Combat Peak. When Han Yi arrived at Combat Peak, he almost couldn't recognize it. The Combat Peak at this moment was no longer the same as it was 3 years ago, its area had expanded more than 3 times. For cultivators, moving mountains was naturally not a problem. At the top of the peak, there were originally only 1 combat platform, but now, there were 2 more, and the 3 combat platforms formed a triangle. On the combat platforms, 3 battles were taking place. Below the combat platforms, hundreds of people were watching and learning. Surrounding the combat platforms, a circle of houses and lofts had been built, with Xuanwo and Xuandixi and pill shops prominently displayed. Han Yi even saw the signboard of the Nine Dragons commercial shop hanging on one of the lofts. At the entrance of Combat Peak, 3 huge plaques stood there. Heaven List, Earth Ranking, Human Ranking. In Heaven List, the first place went to Azure Dragon Peak, Master Fire Phoenix. In Heaven List, the second place went to Vermilion Bird Peak, Linya. ? In Heaven List, the 39th place went to Azure Dragon Peak, Bai Wanqing. ? In Heaven List, the 69th place went to Golden Court Peak, Yuwu. ? Han Yi looked at the Heaven List and found that this list only included rankings, inner peak locations, and names, without any other information. There were a total of 83 people on the Heaven List, which should have included all Foundation Establishment stage cultivators of Xuanden sect. Moreover, he saw on this list, Yu Wu, who had challenged many Qi cultivation peaks more than 3 years ago. After 3 years, he had already advanced to the Foundation Establishment stage and ranked 69th on the Heaven List, which was quite impressive. This kind of list is really clear, with all the elders on it. Heaven List first place, Master Fire Phoenix, is a legend. Next, he looked at the second list, Earth Ranking. Not all inner sect disciples were ranked on the Earth Ranking list, but just the top 300. Out of the top 100, there was only one at the 8th layer of Qi cultivation, while the rest were all at the 9th layer or higher. Within the top 300, there were 13 at the 7th layer of Qi cultivation. Han Yi found a familiar name at the 28th place, He Fengdi, and Yan Ru's name at the 278th place. Then, he looked at the human ranking. Like the Earth ranking, the human ranking listed the top 300, including several familiar names, but Zheng Hai was not on the list. After looking at the Heaven, Earth, and Human ranking lists, Han Yi walked to the area near the combat platforms. Of the 3 combat platforms, only 2 still had people fighting. On the other platform, a disciple dressed in a grey robe sat cross-legged, waiting for others to challenge. Compared to more than 3 years ago, the current combat peak could be described as completely renewed, aptly put. Han Yi watched 2 battles, one between 2 cultivators at the 8th layer of Qi cultivation, and another between 2 at the 6th layer. Both battles were eye-opening. Their battles, compared to those from years ago, had undergone a metamorphosis. This new policy has really ignited a long-lasting fire, and it's burning even stronger now. However, this fire has little to do with me. Han Yi shook his head, turned around, and left the peak. The Heaven, Earth, and Human ranking lists were one of the new policies that Han Yi summarized in 3 words: rolled up. So far, this roll had not affected him. After looking at the greatly changed combat peak, Han Yi returned to Azure Dragon Peak and entered his courtyard. He took out more than a dozen storage bags. Among them, there were 6 storage bags belonging to cultivators in the 9th layer of Qi cultivation. He didn't want to waste time specifically erasing the restrictions for now. This included the 4 from the 12 robbing cultivators outside Daofu City, the dual cultivating youth with a long spear from Evil Mountain, and the storage bag of Lu Heng from the spirit field in the Luo family's Daofu City property. The remaining storage bags belonged to cultivators in the 8th layer of Qi cultivation, including 1 from Tianqing City years ago, 3 from the Evil Mountain range, and 8 from the 12 robbing cultivators this time. Chapter 107. Peak Mastery, Seeking Subscription 3/5. Translator. 549,690,339. Han Yi first broke the restrictions on the storage bag of the 12 robbing cultivators, organized the items within, and found that there were not many spirit stones in these storage bags. The least held only a few thousand low-grade spirit stones, and the most held only over 200 middle-grade spirit stones. There were also various odds and ends, low-grade spiritual talismans, formation plates, and transfer jade plates, etc. However, every little bit adds up, and Han Yi was not greedy. After sorting them out, he broke open the storage bags of 3 Qi cultivation 8th layer cultivators he had obtained from the Evil Mountain range. Among them, the one who wielded the silver scale fan was the richest, with as many as over 700 middle-grade spirit stones in his storage bag. Surprisingly, there was even another top-grade magic treasure, which was a golden pot-like magic treasure that greatly lifted Han Yi's spirits. After that, he opened the last storage bag, which belonged to the owner of the Golden Light Shuttle, the Chi Cultivation 8th layer cultivator he had killed in Tianqing City. Han Yi had only encountered one Chi cultivation stage cultivator with such a top-grade magic treasure, and he speculated that there must be great surprises inside this storage bag. As expected, after breaking the restriction, Han Yi scanned the storage bag with his divine sense, took a deep breath, and his eyes shone brightly. A large pile of spirit stones, and they're all middle-grade spirit stones, nearly 2,000 in total. This is a huge fortune. Aside from spirit stones, there were also many spiritual talismans. Annihilation talismans, and there are 2 of them. Hiss. Han Yi's face was shocked. In this storage bag, besides the middle and high-grade spiritual talismans, there were also 2 first-stage premium-grade annihilation talismans. The Annihilation Talisman, when activated, is not as flashy as the Yin Thunder Talisman but rather silent, targeting only the Divine Soul. With a single strike, the opponent's Divine Soul would be obliterated, making it even more terrifying than the Yin Thunder Talisman. Han Yi did not expect there to be an Annihilation Talisman in the storage bag of that gloomy teenager from Tianqing City. If he had used it back then, Han Yi reckoned he would have perished without any chance of survival. Thinking about this, Han Yi shuddered. Fortunately, he had been decisive at the time, otherwise the consequences would have been unpredictable. Han Yi solemnly placed the 2 annihilation talismans into his storage bag. These were weapons and trump cards that could save his life at critical moments. Next, Han Yi looked at the magic treasures in the storage bag and his eyes were immediately attracted to a silver magic treasure. This magic treasure was a silver mirror. Is it another Silver Series top-grade magic treasure like the Silver Light Pearl and the Silver Scale Fan? After checking it out, Han Yi solemnly put it into the storage bag. He would study it when he had time. Breaking the restrictions on these dozens of storage bags took Han Yi almost 2 months. After organizing everything, Han Yi did not go to the 9 Dragons Market to sell the magic treasures to He Fengwei, as he had done in the past. This was because he had obtained a large number of spirit stones from these dozens of storage bags, which were enough to support his cultivation until the foundation establishment stage. There was no need to worry about spirit stones, so why sell the magic treasures? Another reason was that after experiencing the mysterious land, Han Yi realized that he had a very serious shortcoming. His techniques were too weak, and his magic treasures were too singular. All in all, he only had a sword control skill, a spirit void finger, a wind demon dagger, a shadow-bearing sword, and a golden light shuttle as his trump card. Besides that, he needed to rely on spiritual talismans to enhance his combat strength. Against Chi Cultivation 8th layer, ordinary 9th layer, or even experienced 9th layer opponents, this proved abundantly effective in securing a kill. However, when facing Chi Cultivation Peak, or even legendary Chi cultivators, commonly known as half-step foundation establishment, Han Yi's techniques appeared somewhat weak. Han Yi believed that the mysterious yellow-robed immortal in the Luo family's spirit field could definitely be considered half-step foundation establishment, or even possibly hiding their true strength, comparable to an ordinary foundation establishment stage cultivator. Although he defeated the yellow-robed immortal using the Golden Light Shuttle, if he encountered another legendary Chi cultivator such as Blood God's Child Han Shushao, Han Yi wouldn't simply stand there waiting to be attacked without fighting back. This was one of his conclusions on the mysterious land. His techniques were still weak and needed to be strengthened. He needed to refine more magic treasures, which could even be used to buy time or inflict severe damage to the enemy at critical moments by self-destructing. Another consideration was his skills. On the one hand, their power needed to be increased, and he needed to break through either the Spirit Void Finger or Sword Control skill to reach the realm of peak mastery as soon as possible. On the other hand, he needed to learn more skills. He only had one defensive skill, Fire Shield skill, which was too specialized, and he needed to learn another one. He had the Turtle Breath skill but still lacked a concealment skill. Within the Xuandan sect, there was no need for a concealment skill, but it became critical outside, especially during his trip to Daofu City, which made Han Yi realize the importance of concealment skills. If he had been able to move stealthily while concealing his breath, he would not have been discovered by the robbing cultivators, and none of the following events would have happened. Indeed, as one cultivates to higher levels, one feels increasingly pressed for time. Since my realm cannot be broken through in a short period of time, let's focus on working on my skill proficiency first. But there's no need to rush. We should take it step by step and plan well to avoid chaos. Taking a deep breath, Han Yi started to choose the most important task, which was to cultivate the Spirit Void Finger. This skill progressed faster than the sword control skill and was inherently less difficult to cultivate. Han Yi chose to focus on it as his breakthrough point. In the outside world, the three realms' rankings constantly changed, and the immortal path was full of ups and downs. In the courtyard, Han Yi's mind was unswerving, as he practiced the Spirit Void Finger, sword control skill, refining magic treasures, learning concealment skills, and defensive magic skills. In his spare time, Han Yi would stand alone atop Azure Dragon Cliff, sometimes gazing into the distance, sometimes sipping wine, sometimes pondering, and sometimes sitting cross-legged. During the first year, he spent one day every month going to Combat Peak to find out about major events happening within the sect. He kept track of the implementation progress of the sect's new policies and stepped onto the combat platform to effortlessly defeat a Chi Cultivation 8th level disciple, thus completing the new policies' challenges. In the second year, he left the house even less frequently. During the third year, he only went out once. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. At this point, Han Yi was already 41 years old. It had been a full 20 years since he had crossed over. It had been 16 years since the battle in the demonic cave. It had been 12 years since the conflict between the Xuandan sect and the Blood God sect. 8 years had passed since the introduction of the new policies. Within the courtyard of Azure Dragon Peak, Han Yi sat cross-legged inside the soul-locking array, his fingers gliding along the black shadows on his body. With the movement of his fingers, the sound of breaking through the air rang out and sword light flickered like lightning, with only a phantom left to be seen. At some point, the sword light whizzing beside him suddenly vanished. No, it didn't vanish, it just moved too fast for Han Yi to control it at that moment. Boom! In an instant, the sword light penetrated the soul-locking array, slamming into the courtyard. The entire courtyard shook, and the formation in the courtyard swayed violently, its spirit light constantly flickering. I did it! Han Yi stood up abruptly, his face full of delight. I finally broke through in the sword control skill. Han Yi gently beckoned, and the shadow-bearing sword, which was deeply embedded in the ground, flew up with a whoosh and returned to its sheath. Then, he looked at the pale red proficiency panel in front of him. Name: Han Yi. Lifespan: 41 135ths. Realm: Chi Cultivation 8th level 28 100ths. Technique: Fire Zon Power entering the micro 39 100ths. Skills: Alchemy skill Fire is purely green 49 100ths. Spirit Void Finger Peak Mastery 3 100ths. Sword Control skill Peak Mastery 1 100th. Light Body Technique Peak Mastery 4 100ths. Fire Shield skill Fire is purely green 89 100ths. Turtle Breath skill Fire is purely green 28 100ths. Departing Fire Sword formula Fire is purely green 18 100ths. Chi Observation skill Enter the Hall 35 100ths. Concealment skill Enter the Hall 9 100ths. Wind Wall skill Enter the Hall 4 100ths. Talisman Making skill Beginner 29 100ths. Chapter 108. Cave Heaven reopens, seeking subscription 4/5. Translator: 549,690,339. Over these 3 years, although Han Yi wanted to balance the cultivation of various skills, in the end, he still found it difficult to take care of everything. He first pushed the Spirit Void Finger to the Peak Mastery realm, then added a supplementary concealment skill, as well as a defensive wind wall skill. Han Yi's primary spiritual root is Fire Spirit Root, and since fire generates wind, it is suitable for people with Fire Spirit Root to practice wind attribute magic skills. It's much easier than practicing other elemental skills such as metal or wood. This is also why he chose the wind wall skill. However, it wasn't until 3 years later, at this moment, that he managed to advance his sword control skill from Fire is purely green to Peak Mastery. The sudden increase in power after the breakthrough in sword control skill also caught him off guard. The more advanced the skills, the harder they become. Every bit of progress is not easy, but if there is a breakthrough, its power will multiply exponentially. With great mood, Han Yi stepped out again, approximately 6 months later. This time, he was heading to the Combat Peak again. In these years, the Combat Peak has been expanded several times, and it no longer looks like a mountain peak but rather an area with special characteristics within the sect. Outer disciples, inner peak, and even elders are all gathered here. When Han Yi ascended the Combat Peak this time, he heard everyone discussing one thing. Cave Heaven trial was opening again after 12 years. This time, the number of trial spots is still 100. These 100 spots will be given to the top 100 inner disciples in the Earth ranking after 1 month. During this month, the inner disciples went crazy, especially those who arc around the 100th spot. Those ranking within the top 100 have to protect their spots, and those outside the top 100 have to desperately win more fights, surpassing others to enter the top 100. This intense competition is shown at the combat peak right now, in the form of fierce battles. 100 spots. Those who participated 12 years ago shouldn't be few. However, the sect didn't remove them and let all the Earth-ranking disciples compete, which is fair. If I exert half of my strength, I should have no problem getting on the list. However, going to the sacred Yujing mountain is not as good as staying in the Xuanden sect to practice. Han Yi shook his head without any intention of getting involved in this matter, even though he was indeed very interested in the sacred Yujing mountain in his heart. The immortal path is a long journey, and one should not be obsessed with immediate gains and losses. Han Yi turned his head and went towards the Red Sunfang market. Many years later, he entered the Red Sunfang market again. This time he came to sell some of the low-ranking artifacts and nameless spiritual medicines that he had obtained from his storage bags and to buy more spiritual talismans. Actually, Han Yi had thought about making talismans himself, but what he lacked most was time. The improvement of the talisman-making skill, like alchemy skill, required a long time, which he couldn't afford to wait. Moreover, since he had enough spirit stones on him, why not just buy them directly? Fellow Taoist, it's been many years. Have you been in seclusion and practicing? Seeing Han Yi, He Fengwei's eyes lit up. Even though Han Yi was still wearing his concealment mask, he recognized Han Yi at a glance. Han Yi nodded without elaborating and took out the artifacts. Master He, I came mainly to sell artifacts and buy talismans today. Hearing Han Yi's words, He Fengwei's eyes gleamed bright. Every time this fellow Taoist sold artifacts and bought talismans from the Nine Dragons shop, it earned them a lot of money. How could he not be happy? Blood Soul Banner, Golden Tripod Plate. Among these artifacts, many were chosen from the ones left by Han Yi, and they were mostly low-ranked artifacts. Most of them were like banners, umbrellas, or cauldrons, and there were only a few middle-ranked ones among them. He kept the artifacts that he might use, such as sword or knife artifacts, regardless of their rank, low or middle. At critical moments, he could detonate these artifacts using the sword control skill to block enemies. After a check, He Fengwei quoted a price, and Han Yi accepted it. Then, He Fengwei watched Han Yi eagerly, but Han Yi waved his hands. That's all, there's nothing else. Nothing else? Are you sure? He Fengwei was somewhat uncertain. The artifacts taken out by Han Yi were many, but their ranks were relatively low. No, I also have these dozen storage bags. Let's sell them together. Han Yi took out more than a dozen storage bags, which were mainly left by the robbing cultivators outside Daofu City. He Fengwei's eyes, which had just brightened up, went dull again. Seeing his regretful expression, Han Yi said irritably, Fellow Taoist, I'm not a robbing cultivator. How can I possibly sell you such good artifacts every time? He Fengwei glanced at Han Yi and rolled his eyes. You're not a robbing cultivator, but you're better than one. With so many artifacts and storage bags, even robbing cultivators would be killed by you if they encountered you. What He Fengwei didn't know was that he actually guessed it right. After the settlements, Han Yi added some more spirit stones and bought a few talismans. This time, he didn't buy many but rather focused on the ones most suitable for him. Escaping Talisman, Protecting Body Talisman, Yin Thunder Talisman. Together with the 2 Annihilation Talismans Han Yi got from the storage bags earlier, he felt it was enough. By the way, fellow Taoist, do you provide artifact appraisal service here? Han Yi remembered that he still had a silver mirror in his storage bag and took it out. He Fengwei nodded. Seeing the mirror, his eyes lit up. Silver makeup mirror. Yes, it should be the silver makeup mirror. After some appraisal by He Fengwei, he confirmed that this mirror was indeed called the silver makeup mirror. Manager He, is this one of the silver series magic tools you mentioned before? Han Yi wanted to make sure of this. He Fengwei nodded. Yes, it's one of the high-grade magic tools from the Southern Dipper Divine Palace's silver series. Fellow Taoist, did you sneak into the Southern Dipper Divine Palace and take away the silver series? Han Yi shook his head with a smile, took back the mirror, and did not intend to sell it, he was just confirming its value. He Fengwei showed regret. The silver series, such excellent high-grade magic tools. Fellow Taoist, if you ever need to sell it in the future, please choose Julong Shop. I promise to only charge a handling fee and won't make any extra money from you. As for this appraisal, let's not charge you any fees. Han Yi was naturally happy to save money, so he casually agreed. Their business relationship had already built a strong trust. Before leaving, Han Yi suddenly remembered something and took 2 black beads with extremely fast cracks from his storage bag. These 2 beads were the result of the fierce attack launched by the robbing cultivator outside of Daofu City, and that black light brushing by him nearly caused his downfall. Manager He, please help me evaluate these broken magic tools. He Fengwei picked up the black bead fragments and observed them, his expression gradually becoming serious. Fellow Taoist, where did you get this item? Han Yi raised his eyebrows. Manager He, is there something special about this item? I have never seen this kind of magic tool, but I have seen it described in an ancient book. This magic tool is called the Mother and Child Destruction Pearl and is a one-time use item. However, it belongs to the evil cultivators, magic tools, because refining the Mother and Child Destruction Pearl requires a living human sacrifice and goes against the natural order. This is my first time seeing it. He Fengwei shook his head, apparently not interested in these magic tools, even showing some disgust. Han Yi put away the broken bead, and since it belongs to the evil cultivators, magic tools and goes against the natural order, he wouldn't try to restore it. After thanking He Fengwei, he left Red Sun Fang Market, walked down Red Sun Peak, and paused when he reached Azure Dragon Peak. At the edge of the Azure Dragon Cliff, a familiar figure caught Han Yi's eye, calmly looking at him before turning their head away, gazing at the cloud sea. Han Yi's heart skipped a beat but did not worry, he respectfully approached. Yuan Shun, the sect master of the Xuandan sect, Yuan Shun. At the moment, he was still dressed in white without any magic tools, appearing like an ordinary mortal, but within 10 meters of him, the surroundings were calm, quiet, and seemed like a cut-off separate space. Han Yi pays respects to sect master. Han Yi respectfully saluted, and in his heart, he began to wonder what matter would make Yuan Shun come to him. Counting this time, it had already been the 3rd time. The first time was discovering the Blood God sect traitors, and the second was after returning from the Evil Mountain Range, both had traces to follow. This 3rd time, there were no clues whatsoever. For the second Cave Heaven trial, there are 2 slots, but after the first trial, the sect made a proposal. In addition to these 2 slots, more slots were added, with each Supreme Elder nominating a disciple whose strength is not enough but has high potential. Yuan Shun got straight to the point, directly mentioned the main theme, and sighed softly after that. The sect is too big to be completely fair and unbiased, I understand that too. Originally, the slot for me was meant for Yu Wu, but with his rapid progress, he had already established the Immortal Path Foundation in the previous years, which left an extra slot available. Yuan Shun turned around, and his gaze landed on Han Yi. At the Qi Cultivation 8th level, your realm is mediocre. However, you have killed many Blood God sect cultivators and even taken out several Silver Series magic tools. Your strength should be no weaker than the ordinary 9th level cultivator. This opportunity suits you well. Go, experience some trials, and meet the legendary Qi cultivating cultivators across the world. It's quite worthwhile. In a month, come to the combat peak. Yuan Shun spoke unhurriedly but didn't give Han Yi any chance to refuse. After finishing, he turned around and left. This time, he didn't travel through the Cloud Sea but walked towards the Azure Dragon Palace, presumably having other matters to attend to. Han Yi stood still, watching Yuan Shun leave and bowed thankfully. When he raised his head, his expression was a bit complicated, with both surprise and delight. The surprise was Yuan Shun's knowledge of his transactions in the market, which allowed him to infer that Han Yi had killed many Blood God sect cultivators and guessed his realm to be around the advanced Qi cultivation level. The first half was accurate, but Yuan Shun did not know that Han Yi had strong enough strength to kill the 9th level cultivators when he was only at the Qi cultivation 7th level. And after breaking through to the Qi cultivation 8th level and achieving a peak mastery skill, although he hadn't tested it, he was confident that his strength was not inferior to those at the Qi cultivation peak. He could even compete with legendary Qi cultivators like Han Shushao. This was his theoretical guess, untested because, so far, neither death platform had really competed with Qi cultivation peak or above the legendary Qi cultivators. Winning or losing could only be determined after the competition. The delight was that he didn't have to participate in the ranking to directly get a Cave Heaven trial slot. It was like a gift from heaven. Han Yi didn't dislike participating in the Cave Heaven trial, but weighing the pros and cons, he didn't want to spend so much time just to get a top 100 Earth ranking and expose his true strength. With such a high price, he chose to give up. Ever since discovering the Blood God sect traitor years ago, he had warned himself to keep a low profile in the Schwanden sect, not wanting to be the bird that gets shot as it sticks its head out. However, if he could get a slot without participating in the Earth rankings, he would definitely accept the benefit. Moreover, the Cave Heaven trial did not appear dangerous from the first time, as everyone came back alive, so there was nothing to worry about. After returning to the courtyard, Han Yi continued to cultivate without any preparation. The Spirit Void Finger, Sword Control Skill, and Light Body Technique had already broken through to peak mastery. For now, Han Yi estimated he wouldn't be able to push these three skills to a higher level before reaching the Foundation Establishment stage. He was now refining the Fire Shield skill, a defensive fire attribute magic skill that had provided strong defensive abilities during several battles. Its importance was no less than that of the peak mastery skills. While practicing the Fire Shield skill, he also paid more attention to his advancing realm. Chapter 109, The Ceremony Request for Subscription 5/5. Translator. 549,690,339. Ever since consuming the Blood Bone Spirit Flower and promoting Huogang Shuanggong to the detailed stage, Han Yi's cultivation speed hasn't been much slower than when he was at the 7th layer of Qi cultivation stage. When referring to speed here, it means the progression. During his Qi cultivation 7th layer period, he closed off for 2.5 years, from 43 Wo, increased to 100 100ths. In this process, the first half was slow, and the second half increased with the detailed stage of the cultivation method. After he returned to the Azure Dragon Peak from Daofu City and had cultivated for 3 years, roughly speaking, about a year was spent on promoting realms, and this year, from 8 100ths, increased to 28 100ths, suggesting a 20% progression. From these numbers, after reaching the Qi cultivation 8th layer, his cultivation speed, overall, is not less than that of the Qi cultivation 7th layer. If he commits wholeheartedly and spends all time promoting the realm, he only needs 4 years to advance to the Qi cultivation 9th layer. This speed is beyond Han Yi's expectation. The real immortal path is achievable. If he hadn't had the Blood Bone Spirit Flower and the blessing of the detailed stage cultivation method, originally, he would have estimated needing 15 to 20 years to possibly advance from the Qi cultivation 8th layer to the Qi cultivation 9th layer, and that's only under the condition of spiritual vein nourishment and sufficient spirit stones. A month later, Han Yi was prepared, carrying the shadow-bearing sword and rushed to the combat peak. Today, the second group of disciples will set off for Yujing Mountain, going for the trial of Cave Heaven. When he arrived at the combat peak, instead of the usual hustle and bustle, it was somewhat deserted. Only several dozen disciples scattered around the area. Han Yi learned from a somewhat aloof Qi cultivation 9th layer senior brother that this time, only the Earth rankings top 100 people are allowed into the combat peak, and the other disciples were all in their own peaks inside and outside, watching through the illusion fairy mirror. This junior brother, you look strange, why haven't I seen you before? The Seniro brother with a cold face said suspiciously. Han I saluted, I rarely come to the combat peak, it's normal if the senior brother finds me unfamiliar. My name is Han Yi. How can I address you? I'm Feng Jingyu. Feng Jingyu, the cold-featured senior brother, put his hands behind his back. Han Yi remembered this name, he was the 68th on the Earth ranking, and a senior brother boasting a deep level 9 Qi cultivation. Even though Han Yi rarely came to the combat peak, he had come to learn virtually everything he was supposed to know. Among the top 100 inner disciples on the Earth rank, the top 2 had both surpassed the Qi cultivation peak 9 layer, reaching to the legendary Qi cultivation. Besides, the top 30 were also at the Qi cultivation peak, and all those in the top 80 were deep in level 9 Qi cultivation. From the 80 and downwards, except for one Qi cultivation 8th layer disciple with excellent talent, all the others are Qi cultivation 9th layer. Senior brother Feng, did you participate in the last Cave Heaven trial? Han Yi asked while he still had the chance. This senior brother named Feng Jingyu, with a cold demeanor, shook his head. I was lucky to have not participated in the last Cave Heaven trial. Lucky? Han Yi was surprised, somehow those not attending were considered lucky. Feng Jingyu cast a glance at Han Yi, noticed that he was just at the Qi cultivation 8th layer, yet he could climb the combat peak today, which was not common. Therefore he didn't bother to stick to his higher status and explained. Unless the junior brother also rarely goes to the combat peak. Do you know how many remain at level 9 of Qi cultivation from the 100 participants of the last Cave Heaven trial? This was not a question waiting for Han Yi to answer. Without pause, he went on to say. Only 40 people. At this point, there was an unnoticeable look of fear flashed across his face. Among these 40 people, 6 completed Immortal Path Foundation building and were promoted to Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator. 13 failed the promotion. 6 died under the Heavenly Demon Calamity, 7 had terrain reversals and were demoted to stewards or managers. The remaining 21 remained on the Earth ranking, and all these 21 were cultivators with terrains of Qi cultivation peak or higher. Han Yi was shocked. All in all, the previous Cave Heaven trial was just 11 years ago. The 100 participants were almost the best Qi cultivating disciples of the Xuanden sect, yet 60% of them had died. Han Yi was about to ask when he saw the cold senior brother started explaining of his own accord. 27 of the 60 dead ones died in the Evil Mountain Range, while the remaining 33 died for various other reasons, such as marauded by robbing cultivators after descending the peak, or stepping into a demonic path. Han Yi's heart skipped a beat. It seems that this Cave Heaven trial is bad news. Just when Feng Jingyu was about to speak more, he saw a golden core cultivator descending from the sky. It's Elder Fu. In his eyes, a holy light was flickering, landing on the golden core stage cultivator who just descended, flashed a look of admiration. A golden core cultivator, alas, when will I ever reach that stage? At last, Han Yi seemed to understand that this senior brother, who appeared cold, was actually a chatterbox. He looked up at the golden core stage cultivator who just landed on the combat platform. He found it somewhat familiar. The last name is Fu. Han Yi tensed, recalling that not long after he crossed over and was still at the Little Lingshu Peak, the then master of Little Lingshu Peak was Fan Mo. Next door's Little Valley Sword Peak master was infected by a heavenly demon, massacred Little Valley Sword Peak, triggered the Outer Peak formation, smashing Little Lingshu Peak, causing a disaster for Little Lingshu Peak. A golden core stage cultivator appeared at that time, and the aura of that cultivator was exactly same as the one that just landed. Besides, the heavyweight backing of the 9 Dragons commercial broker, I've checked, it's Elder Fu, the Golden Core Supreme Elder. It must be him. This Elder Fu of Golden Core stage is very famous. After the Supreme Elder landed, Feng Jingyu forced himself to shut his mouth, hoping to make a good impression. Not just him, the surrounding cultivators also refrained from speaking. A moment later, Han Yi saw a familiar face come up to the combat peak. He Fengdi saw Han Yi standing amid the crowd, his eyes filled with surprise. His gaze flickered slightly, but he didn't inquire further. He merely nodded at Han Yi, who returned the gesture. A moment later, 2 more Golden Core stage cultivators appeared, joining the others on the combat platform as the disciples gathered. A Supreme Elder that Han Yi didn't recognize waved his hand and summoned a magic weapon. He lightly held it in his hands, raised them, and threw it upward. The magic weapon ascended, and in a blink of an eye, it transformed into an immortal boat, which was of a higher rank than the disaster-crossing immortal boat. It was faster and had a stronger defense. Disciples who heard their names, come forward and board the immortal boat. The crowd of cultivators had not anticipated that they'd have to be named before boarding the immortal boat and were taken aback. However, the Golden Core Supreme Elder had already begun calling out names. Han Yi certainly didn't expect this sort of ceremony. It felt overly deliberate and unnecessary. With the divine sense of a Golden Core stage cultivator, a simple sweep would suffice to discern who was on the list and who wasn't. Why bother with a roll call? It seemed to be a mere waste of time. However, upon further thought, he realized that the ceremony wasn't for them, the disciples present, it was for the tens of thousands of inner and outer peak disciples who were watching through the illusion fairy mirror. This was a ceremony, similar to many years ago when the first Cave Heaven trial disciples had returned, which Han Yi had watched through the Elodian fairy mirror from Little Lingshu Peak. Whether it was to encourage or boost morale. Earth ranking number 1, White Tiger Peak, Zheng Changshu. Earth ranking number 2, Azure Dragon Peak, and Shin. Earth ranking number 3, Earth ranking number 28, White Tiger Peak, He Fengdi. Earth ranking number 68, Golden Court Peak, Feng Jingyu. Earth ranking number 100, Zhu Rong Peak, Lin Shanda. When the chanting of this powerful and inspiring voice reached this point, the Supreme Elder scanned over the 100 disciples standing under combat platform and the 9 disciples whose names hadn't been called. Alright, let's go. The Golden Core Stage Elder waved his hand, and the disciples standing below, including those in the top 100 of Earth ranking and the other 9 whose names were not called, suddenly took off into the sky. At this moment, the immortal boat sent down a golden beam of light. With a single sweep, it drew everyone up onto the immortal boat. The other 2 Supreme Elders then also ascended and boarded the immortal boat. Boom! The immortal boat emitted a tremendous rumbling sound, broke through the boundless sea of clouds, transformed into a streak of flowing light, and vanished above Combat Peak in an instant. The space in front of everyone slightly warped, and when it stabilized anew, Han Yi looked around. This round, there were a total of 109 disciples at the Qi cultivation stage, and 3 Golden Core Supreme Elders. There were no Foundation Establishment Elders in their group. "You're Han Yi," a voice sounded beside him. Following the sound, Han Yi bowed in respect. "Greetings to the Supreme Elder, I am Han Yi." Standing beside him was the Supreme Elder who had been reading out the names. This cultivator appeared to be rather old. He was not tall and robust, but rather seemed ordinary. The visage on his face made it clear that he was well into his twilight years, hinting at a trace of old age. "I'm Fu Xuanxu. Master Yuan asked me to keep an eye on you during this journey. If you have any issues, you can always seek me out. However, you're at the 8th level of Qi cultivation stage, your strength is not strong. Upon entering the Facing Reality Heavenly Realm, you can participate in battles against other races, but you don't need to participate in the Token King competition. It would just be a waste of time." After saying this, Fu Xuanxu walked towards the distance to check on the other disciples. Han Yi thanked him and then pondered, his face showing a thoughtful expression. Token King competition. Before Han Yi could ponder more, a cold voice from beside him intruded. "Junior brother Han, you're not one of this round's top 100 disciples from Earth ranking. How did you manage to board the immortal boat?" The one asking was none other than the cold-looking cultivator Feng Jingyu, who Han Yi had met earlier. "I'm sorry, brother Feng, but that's a secret of our sect. I am not at liberty to discuss it," Han Yi apologetically replied, pointing at Fu Xuanxu tens of meters away to indicate that it wasn't that he couldn't tell, but that the matter concerned the higher-ups. Realization dawned on Feng Jingyu's face. "I understand now. You're Elder Fu's relative." Han Yi's heart skipped a beat. "You're mistaken, brother Feng. I have no relation to Elder Fu." Han Yi now understood that this strong, aloof-looking senior brother was not only a chatterbox but had a rather eccentric perspective when it came to understanding situations. Goodness, a relative. However, although his perspective was eccentric, his overall guess was, in fact, correct. Among the 9 extra spots, aside from himself, the others had connections to the Golden Core Supreme Elders, either as disciples or as relatives. Only then were they able to seize this rare opportunity. Only Yuan Shun, the sect master, had initially intended to give his spot to Yu Wu. However, Yu Wu advanced to the Foundation Establishment stage a few years ago and left his status as a disciple. It was because of this that Han Yi had this opportunity. Chapter 110. Chapter No. Taishu Illusionary Realm Seeking Full Subscription 1/5. Translator. 549,690,339. By the way, brother Feng, do you know what the content of our trial in the Cave Heaven is? Han Yi asked. Sensing Feng Jingyu's enthusiasm, he couldn't help but inquire about the content of the Cave Heaven trial. "This, I do know a bit about. You know Brother Qi, right? He ranks 9th on the Earth ranking. He's over there. This is his 2nd time participating in the Cave Heaven trial. Every time I asked him about the trial, he was always evasive and unwilling to say much. But after the top 100 of the Earth ranking was confirmed a few days ago, he finally agreed to tell me. Since you're also on the immortal boat to participate in the trial, there's no harm in letting you know some of this information. Younger brother Han, do you know what Cave Heaven is?" Cave Heaven? Han Yi frowned. Cave Heaven, to my understanding, is a kind of mini-world. I wonder if this understanding is correct. Feng Jingyu nodded, then shook his head. Brother Qi says that Cave Heaven is indeed a small world. However, a more accurate explanation should be that it is a world that failed to fully ascend or gestate. There's another explanation. Our cultivation world belongs to the Dakion world, while the world of Cave Heaven is a small thousand world. Theoretically, if this small thousand world continues to improve, it will transform into a large thousand world similar to our current cultivation world. And the Facing Reality Heavenly Realm of the Yujing Mountain Sacred Land is such a small thousand world. After the Yujing Mountain Sacred Land gained the Facing Reality Heavenly Realm, it took a long time to transform this small thousand world and establish the Taishu Illusionary Realm. The Taishu Illusionary Realm is connected with the Taishu Heaven and possesses an unpredictable mighty power. And our destination is actually the Taishu Illusionary Realm. We use the power of the illusion to form identical bodies, the Taishu bodies, in the Taishu Illusionary Realm. The divine soul enters the Taishu body and then enters the world of Cave Heaven. Except for magic artifacts, thought processes, skills, all are identical to those in the real world. In this way, even if we die in the cave heaven world, it is the Taishu body that dies. The divine soul returns to the Taishu illusionary realm, reincarnates the Taishu body, and can re-enter the cave heaven world. In this way, we are essentially immortal in the world of cave heaven. Han Yi was startled. I see. 12 years ago, during the first cave heaven trial, she heard that after entering the cave heaven world, the rules were different and cultivators possessed an immortal body. So, this is how it actually works. Seeing Han Yi's interest, Feng Jingyu did not stop but continued. And the world of cave heaven, which is the facing reality heavenly realm, is in a period similar to the ancient times of our cultivation world. This was an era of coexistence among numerous clans. Of course, the facing reality heavenly realm has not truly evolved into a large thousand world. The different races within it are only four: the Demon Clan, Evil Clan, Wing Clan, and Shadow Clan. The Demon Clan, Evil Clan, Wing Clan, Shadow Clan. Han Yi raised an eyebrow. He had seen these different races in the scripture collection pavilion, and they were all strong clans from ancient times. That's right, only these four clans exist in the facing reality heavenly realm. No, that description is not accurate. It should be said that in addition to the human clan, there are these four different races. And when we enter the actual cave heaven through the Taishu illusionary realm, everyone's arrival location is basically fixed. The location we arrive at after revival will be near our previous arrival location. As for what else to understand after entering, Brother Qi only said that you will naturally understand once inside and will receive guidance. Feng Jingyu finished explaining in one breath, then looked at Han Yi again and his tone became serious. All other matters are minor. The most important thing is to seize the order. Seize the order means to snatch the fragments of the Taishu order. In the facing reality heavenly realm, seizing the fragments of the Taishu order has many benefits. Such benefits can allow you to exchange the fragments for spiritual items that can enhance cognition, roots, and physique. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Han Yi was taken aback. He had just recently used the blood bone spirit flower to increase his roots by about 3 times. He didn't expect to hear such things here. Can the roots also be enhanced? Envy filled Feng Jingyu's eyes. You should know about Brother Yu, right? I heard that during the last cave heaven trial, he snatched a fragment of the Taishu order. In the cave heaven, he exchanged it for a stunning item, transforming his physique into an extremely robust fire attribute physique. This allowed his cultivation to progress at a rapid pace. Moreover, people with such a physique are formidable with every move, making it easy for them to fight across levels. Think about it, even the physique can be transformed. Roots, I think there shouldn't be a problem. Han Yi was lost in thought. The Taishu order, the seizing order, that Fu Xuanxu mentioned before should refer to seizing the Taishu order. Han Yi was about to ask for details about the Taishu order. But he saw Feng Jingyu mysteriously smile, lean over and whisper. By the way, Brother Han probably doesn't know. There's an interesting rumor about the facing reality heavenly realm. It is said that the facing reality heavenly realm was obtained by the Yujing Mountain sacred land nearby the ancestral land of the Taishu sect. The spirit transformation experts of the Yujing Mountain applied an astonishing divine method to transfer the facing reality heavenly realm to Yujing Mountain. This entire process was extremely secretive, and the Taishu sect didn't notice. But afterward, the existence of the facing reality heavenly realm spread, and the leader of the Taishu sect personally came to Yujing Mountain, only to be sent away. The Taishu sect is one of the 3 great sects of Dakion, while the Yujing Mountain sacred land is one of the 2 sacred lands. With spirit transformation experts who sit and suppress the power, they have the upper hand over the Taishu sect.